Okay, so again, before we start with this session, let me make a couple of things clear. Try to make the best use out of this session. So whatever questions you have, whatever doubts you have, you can ask me very well because I want you guys to get benefited out of this class. So do not hesitate. Whatever it is, you can ask me. And the second part is like, try to make the session as interactive as possible. So just, I know it's an online session, so just don't, sit idle as Sandeep already mentioned. So try to make the session as interactive as possible. Please do not hesitate because this is kind of like the first step for you to come out of your comfort zone. Yeah, when you start, attending companies or interviews or whatever it is, they will expect you to be a little bit more proactive, not just in terms of interviews, whatever aspect it is. Interaction with the HRs or interaction with anybody from the company, they are going to expect you to be a little bit proactive because that is what is going to help you when you start working in the company. You'll be working with different, people from different parts of the country. So you might have to, interact with your leads or interact with your project managers or interact with your clients. Or there's going to be a lot of interaction. So you guys need to come out of that comfort zone and, start becoming a little bit proactive when it comes to your communication and conversation. So try to make this session as interactive as possible. So if you have anything, you can ask me, and please, be a bit more interactive. So first, you guys need to understand what is the purpose of this particular training session. So the idea is we're going to discuss about interviews, like personal interviews and how to prepare for that. What are the different aspects that you need to keep in mind while preparing for interview? So we're going to do that, and that we'll see in the first half of the session, and then the second half we'll discuss more on the resume building part. So since you told me that there have been students who are already passed out, so we'll work accordingly. So this is going to be helpful for you in a longer run, as I told you, because you know whatever company you're gonna apply for. So the first step is going to be like you need to have a good resume. So that is an important aspect. So then once you get selected, depending on the companies, you're going to have different rounds of placement. So probably aptitude, group discussion, personal interview, and technical interviews. You're going to have all these things. So apart from the aptitude part, we're going to see the rest of the things like resume and your interview part. So that is what we're going to see. Now I can see that there have been uh, 20 participants so far. So Sandeep told me the count expected was around 47. So it's been almost like 15 minutes. I'm going to start with the session. Now, as I told you, this particular part of the session, we're going to start with interviews. Now, what do you think is the main purpose of interview? Like, why do these companies have interviews? Okay, or first, like, forget about interviews. Why do these companies start with aptitude? Like, you can see most of the companies these days, they have a set process when it comes to placements, when it comes to hiring people. So they start with, most likely they start with this shortlisting people based on resume, then they go on with your placement aptitude test. Then depending on the company, they have group discussion, then they have uh, personal interview or technical interview, or different routes are there. Now, why do companies follow this particular pattern or this particular strategy? Why do you think that the companies follow this? Anyone? Now you're going to work in a company, so isn't it enough if they just ask you questions related to the company or questions related to the job? Isn't it enough, like if they just do that? Why, but instead, why are they going through all this extra process of conducting aptitude test or group discussion and then interviews? So why do companies follow this? What is the purpose or what is the idea behind this particular pattern? What do you think? Anyone? Now, pardon me, I don't speak Malayalam, so pardon me for that, but I can understand Malayalam very well. So, if you're not comfortable with English, you can speak in Malayalam. But I would recommend all of you to start picking up English because when you start working in a company, English is going to be the common mode of communication, the common language. So, it is important that you need to, pick up English. But for the session sake, for this particular training sake, if you're not very comfortable with English, you can answer in Malayalam as well. So anyone, what do you think is the idea behind having this whole, process of aptitude, group discussion, interview? What is the idea? Anyone? So we have 22 participants. Anybody? Okay, all right. So see, I'll tell you. So basically, the idea is the companies need to hire or they want to hire people who are best suitable for that particular job or for that particular company. Now it is easy for them to conduct just interviews related to the company or related to the job. It will be easier for them, but they go through this extra mile of conducting extra like rounds like your aptitude, or certain companies do this group discussion and interviews also. And these days technical interviews have been split into technical interviews, personal interviews, so it depends. So they're going through this extra process just to make sure that they hire the students or they hire the candidates who are best suitable for that particular job or for that particular company. In order to do that, they have certain criteria. That criteria starts with a particular thing called skill set. So they want to hire the people who are best skilled. When I say skilled, you guys need to understand that what I'm trying to say is not like who knows a lot or who's having uh, knowledge, more knowledge. That is not the first criteria that they actually want, because these days they are differentiating people with knowledge and skill set. So you guys need to understand the difference between knowledge and skill set. What is knowledge? What is skill set? They want skilled people. Of course, yes, knowledge people also they want, but more than knowledge, they want people who are skilled. Now, you guys need to understand what is the difference between knowledge and skill. So, knowledge is like, let's say, information about something. You know about something. That is particularly knowledge. Skill set is how you apply that knowledge. That is basically skill set. For example, let's say you would have had in your semester, semesters, you would have different subjects. Now, when you started that semester, you wouldn't have had any knowledge or any information or not detailed knowledge about that particular subject. But by the end of that semester, after different lecture sessions, after your internal test, your aptitude test, not aptitude, sorry, your internal test, your semester exams, your practical exams. After all these things, you would get some knowledge about that particular subject. That is exactly what happens when it comes to your semesters. So that is how they give you knowledge on any particular subject. So if you understand, 6 months is enough for me to give you knowledge on something. So short span is enough for me to give you knowledge on something. But skill doesn't work that way. When I say skill, it starts with personal skills, it starts with technical skills, it starts with your soft skills, all these aspects. So to develop these skills, it takes a longer period of time. For example, let's take communication skill as an example. So to be good at communication, you guys need to put in more efforts. You need to spend more time. For example, you cannot be good at communication skills in, let's say, 6 months. That's not possible. It's going to take a longer period of time. It's going to take like 2 years, 3 years, depending on the depending on the individual. It's going to take more time. So you guys need to understand that skills take a longer period to acquire or to develop. So this aspect the company is also aware of. That is why they want to hire people who are skilled, so that knowledge aspect can be acquired later in a shorter span of time. That happens separately, but initially they want skilled people. So to higher skilled people, they introduced all this process of aptitude, group discussion, personal interview, and all those things. Of course, skill is more important. Doesn't mean that knowledge is not important at all. They are giving more preference or more priority to skill set. Now, let's say aptitude test. You'll be given a set of questions, and then you'll be asked to solve those questions, and then you have to mark the answers. And based on how you answer the questions, you'll be selected for the next round. This is how like the hiring starts if there is an aptitude round. What happens in that aptitude round? Questions are given and you're asked to solve the answers. So what happens there? Starting from your skill set, as I told you, like the basic skill set is problem solving skills. They want to check your problem solving skill. Why they want to check your problem solving skill? So that when you start working in a company, when you face any problems, are you able to solve those problems? That is what they want to understand. That is what they want to know. They want to hire people who have the best problem solving skills according to their standards. That is the first thing. Then decision making skill. How decision making skill? Because one problem will have multiple solutions. Are you able to solve? Are you able to solve multiple? Are you able to decide which solution to choose to solve the question? So that is a decision making skill. Time management. For example, if I give 20 questions and if I give 2 hours, everybody here would be able to solve all the 20 questions. But if I give you 20 questions and 30 minutes, how many of you are able to solve as many questions as possible? That is what these companies will actually check. Okay, so that is your time management part. So like that, they want to test you on different skills. So what are the different skills? As I told you, problem solving, time management, communication. Because even in aptitude, you would have experienced having a verbal round. So there they'll check your English. Why they're checking your English? Because they want to hire people who have the minimum uh, basic English knowledge, the grammar and communication skill. So they want to check people on these particular aspects and then hire them. Now, even in this aptitude part, they are not able to assess a lot of aspects. For example, like how confident you are, that will not be assessed. How good you are in verbal communication, that will not be assessed because some people will be very good at writing, English writing, but when it comes to speaking, they might not be very confident or they might not be very fluent. So that aspects are missed out in the aptitude part. So that is why they have the next round, which is your group discussion, personal interviews. Sometimes some companies have this lecture rounds and all those things. So they want to check additional, skill set, which is why they have this interview part. So when I say interview part, the first thing that you need to remember is that the HR is trying to see whether you're actually suitable for the job and suitable for the company or not. That is the first thing. So you guys need to understand that you are trying to convince the HR that yes, I am suitable for this job. Yes, I am fit for the job. I am fit for the company. That is what you're trying to convince the HRs. So basically, your whole aspect of this interview should be that you are convincing the HR. Why you're convincing? Because they are the ones who are paying you a salary. So they're gonna shell some money on a particular, you know, uh, candidate or a particular employee. They're gonna put some money. Why should they do that? Because if I go to different colleges, I have different students. Now even in this session, we have almost like 25 students. Each of you, you're having your own, story, or you have your own uh, whatever profile that you have. So each of you have your own profile, you have your own skill set. Now what is the need for me to select a particular candidate? I can easily uh, go to a different college. Why should I select one from this particular batch, like 25 students? What is the need for me? That is what you need to, you know, do to the HR. Like convince that okay, one from this or whatever the number is, like even 25 students. That number can be 25 as well. 25 students from this batch, or all the 25 students, or all the 47 students from this batch are suitable for that particular job. Your job is to make it harder for the companies or the HRs to reject people. Don't make it easier for them to, or don't give them a reason, to reject people. So you guys need to make it harder for them to reject people. So that is what you guys need to understand when it comes to your interviews. So for interviews, we're going to discuss, what are all the different interviews that we have when it comes to placements. Then what are the things that you need to do to prepare for interviews, and what aspects are being assessed the most when it comes to interviews, and how will you overcome the issues that you face in an interview. These are the things that you need to keep in mind while preparing for an interview. So I have like sorted out a PowerPoint presentation which has some information when it comes to uh, this interviews. I'll share my screen so that we'll have a look at that. Just give me a minute. Let me sort it out. Okay. Okay, let me share my screen. So I'm hoping that everybody is able to see my screen. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we have a PowerPoint presentation which we'll see. Now this is just an overview on what are the things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to interview. So we're going to discuss a lot about personal interview orientation. So as the name says, it's a personal interview. So they're trying to get to know about you on a personal level. But the different aspects, when it comes to different aspects, it's going to be, technical, or it's going to be a personal skill set or a professional skill set. So they're going to get to know you on a personal, professional, and a technical level. And then they will decide whether you're suitable for the job or whether you're suitable for the company or not. That is what these HRs are going to see. So there are few aspects that you need to remember. Different stages of the interview. Yeah, before interview, what you need to do. On the day of interview, what you need to do. During interview, what you need to do. And after interview, what you need to do. These are the things that we're going to sync. Okay, this I'm not going to. Yes. Yeah. So you need to remember all these things. Now, this is your different stages of an interview. We have different types of interviews as well. So when I say different types, okay, where is the whiteboard? Okay. When I say different types of interviews, you have first one personal interview, then you have technical interview, then you have something called as stress interview. This we will discuss more. Like I'll tell you what stress interview is. So most likely these will be the types of interviews that you usually have when it comes to any, just close that. Okay. Okay. So here, if you understand each of this interview will test you on certain skill set of your personal interview. They'll try to get to know you on a personal level, like what kind of a person you are, what are your skill set, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Then how will you add value to the company? So these aspects will be checked on a personal interview. Technical interview, they'll get to know you, know more about the technical aspects, or the knowledge that is being required for the job or the company. Let's say if you're applying for an IT job, you need to know certain programming languages, you need to know certain database systems, you need to you need to know the syntax of the programming languages and how to apply those like syntaxes. You need to know all these aspects. That is when it comes to your technical aspects. Third one is stress interview. Stress interview is basically they want to see whether you can handle stress or not. Like, why they want to check that? Because when you start working in a company, you'll be put in difficult situations a lot of times. You'll be put in stressful situation where you have to handle your work, and you have to bring that work life balance. And sometimes you might have to extend your work hours, and sometimes you have to go the extra mile to get something done. For example, let's say I'll share my personal experience when it comes to like my job in Infosys. So there was a project where we were working for the client, and we were told on what to do with the in the project. We have to develop an application for a client, and they told you like you can use whatever technology that you're comfortable with. But this is the requirement that whatever uh, like operating system we are trying to open that application, it should work. Let's say if it's a Windows, or if it's like Mac software, or even if it's an Android application, we need to we need to be able to open that particular application. That is what the requirement that was given to us. So we gave them a project deadline, like 4 months. We need to develop the project, and then 1 month of testing, and then like 1 month of deployment and post deployment support. So 6 months we gave the timeline. So we started developing the project. So initially we did a requirement analysis, and then we decided what technology to use and all those things. But 2 months into the project, we figured out that the technology that we planned to use for that particular project cannot accommodate all the features of that particular website. So we figured out that in 2 months into the project. So the deadline now cannot be followed because we need to decide an alternative. We need to come with an alternative technology, and then we need to work on that particular technology. So then we had to go back to the client, and we had to explain them all the issues. We had to request them for an extension. Now this extension is not like how your project extension or how your assignment extension works. It doesn't work that way, because what happens is when you request for an extension, the client has to pay for that extension period as well. Let's say 6 months is what the initial proposed time. They would have prepared a budget for the 6 months. Now, when you are requesting for an extension 2 more months, they have to fit that 2 months into that budget. So, from the company's perspective, client's perspective, it's going to be a lot of work. They are paying money to the companies to develop that project. So, at that point of time, you need to convince them on why you need that extension and why this extension is mandatory. You need to convince them. So, for that point of time, if you get stressed, or if you don't use your presence of mind, or if you don't use your knowledge, it's not going to help. So, you need to convince the clients that you need that extension. So, this particular aspect will be tested in your stress interview, your presence of mind, how you handle challenging situations, all those things. Now they will not tell you whether it's a stress interview or not. Personal interview or technical interview, they'll give you an idea, like it's going to be a personal interview, it's going to be a technical interview. But stress interview doesn't work that way. They will not tell you whether it's a stress interview or not. You will have to understand that, okay, from how the interview happens, it is a stress interview or not. That is what you have to do. Okay, so now these are the types of interviews. Now the basic reasons for the interview, or the purpose of all these interviews. First thing that you need to understand is The HR will try to find out, or the HR wants to make whether you're suitable for the job or not. That is the first purpose behind having these interviews, whether you're suitable for that. Now, on this aspect, how will they check that? By asking you a series of questions when it comes to your interviews. Suitable for the job. Now, when you're suitable for the job, as I said, the first thing that comes to mind is your skill set. When I say skill set, yes, communication, confidence, that is very important. Now, these two aspects are very important. Now, you might not be a very knowledge person. For example, it depends from person to person. Some people will be good at certain subjects, some people will be good at different subjects, some people will be good at your extracurricular activities. Now, you guys need to understand that they will look into these aspects as well. Now, knowledge is just one part. Of course, knowledge is important, but knowledge is not the only thing that is important. You need to work on these two C's, confidence and communication. Now, why these two C's are important? Why are they not giving importance just to knowledge? Why do they want this extra things on communication, confidence, and all this? I'll give you a simple example. Now, let's say if you go to a college, let's say I'm a company, I'm going to a college. I go to the final years, or you know, whichever year, semester 6 or semester 7 or 8. If I go to that particular college and I select a class, like I select a department, let's say IT department or AI or whichever department it is, I choose a stream. If I go to that particular class, let's say the class has 40 students, almost all the 40 students would have been exposed to the same level of training or same level of lecture or same level of knowledge when it comes to their classes, their semesters, their internals, their practicals, and all those things. So they are all given the same level of exposure. So if I want to choose one from that particular, or if I want to choose 10 people from that 40, on what basis will I differentiate each of them? That is where this skill set part comes into picture. Knowledge wise, they will all be exposed to the same level. Now I can differentiate them with the help of my uh, marks, like the semester CGPA or your percentage of marks, whatever, however it works in the college. They can differentiate people, or they can differentiate students with that particular aspect, but that will not help them, because people who are actually good academically need not be necessarily good when it comes to their practical work. So to score good in a CGPA, of course, I need to prepare, I need to study, I need to get to know a lot of things. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee that that person will be a good employee. No, he's a knowledgeable person, or that person has a, like, good CGPA or whatever it is. But I cannot say that that person will be a good employee just by seeing the CGPA. So I want some additional factors. That is where your skill set will come into place. So whether you know you know something, it's important, but how you express your knowledge, that is your skill set. Skill set is expressing knowledge. So knowing things is one thing, but how you express that knowledge is another thing. That is why they give importance to this. So how will they do this? They'll get to know you. They'll get to know you on a personal level. They'll ask you for your introduction. Then they'll ask you your strengths, weaknesses, all these things. Now, through this aspect, they'll try to know about your skill set. Like if they want to go into a technical level, they'll ask you about what language do you know. If it's an IT company, I'm saying per se, they'll ask you what programming language are you comfortable with. Like they'll ask you about syntax, or they'll ask you to explain some concept. If you see, Java is one of the most commonly used programming language. No, they can ask questions from Java if the company want to test you on Java, like Java, or it can be any other. I'm just talking everything when it comes to an IT jobs perspective. It differs from company to company. If it's a you know electronic company, they'll ask you more about integrated circuits, or they'll ask you more about any logical circuits. They can ask you different. They can ask you about microprocessors. Differs from person. It differs from the job or it differs from the company. But everywhere they want to check your knowledge and your skill set. That will be the first thing. So they want to make sure that you whether you're suitable for the job or not. And you have to understand that it is not always about what you say. Not It's not always about what you say in an interview, but how you express it. But how you say matters. That is more important. So when it comes to an interview, you might have, plenty of knowledge when it comes to any particular topic, but they will not have the time to assess you on all those aspects. So in the short span of time, let's say 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever time that you have, you need to convince them. You need to, make them feel that okay, this guy has or this girl has the knowledge or this girl has the skill set that I need from an employee to be working in my company. So more than what you say, how you say it matters a lot. For example, let's say I ask about your hobbies in an interview. So most likely, if I ask for hobbies, what will students say or what will the candidates say? They'll say that I watch cricket, I watch football, I play cricket, I play football, I play badminton, I listen to music, I read books. They'll say these, like most likely, they'll say these might be the hobbies that people will have. And some people, if they have any creative hobbies, they might say that. Now, you need to understand that what is the purpose of an interviewer asking about your hobbies in an interview? They are not going to get anything by knowing that you play cricket or you play badminton or you play football. No, that is not the idea there. So, yes, the question is, what are your hobbies? But they're trying to understand what kind of a person you are by knowing about your hobbies. When I say what kind of a person you are, let's say, for example, you play a sport, you play football. Now, when you say you play football, you need to explain that, yes, I play football. For example, I play football. So, I have the experience of working in teams. So, I know how team coordination actually benefits when it comes to these team activities, group activities. So I can be a very good team player. Or if you're, let's say, a captain of a football team, you can bring that out. I was the captain of the football team. I play football. So there, you're also trying to let the HR know that you have good, team building skills. You work well in a team. You are a good captain, which means you have good leadership skills. So these aspects you're putting front just by your hobby. Now let's say another hobby instead of playing football. Let's say I have reading books or reading novels is my hobby. So when I say reading novels or reading books is my hobby, I try to say that I'm generally a curious person. So I try to know a lot of things because I ask questions. Whenever I learn something, I'm curious about it. So I tend to read a lot to know things. I'm generally interested in knowing things or knowing how things work. So I'm generally a curious person. That curiosity actually helps me to function better when it comes to my work or when it comes to my job. And on top of that, it also helps my creative skills. My creativity gets developed when I read things because when I read, I tend to imagine what I read. Let's say I read a novel. While I'm reading the novel, I also keep imagining how that novel actually works. So in my mind, I tend to be more creative even when I read a novel. So that creativity actually helps me a lot in a personal level, and also it will help me on a professional level because I tend to do that. You need to be creative when it comes to your job. So you are trying to say that you have certain skills just by your hobby. Even if you say your hobby is, for example, let's say I make Instagram reels. That is your hobby. That is a very simple hobby. Like if you go and tell anybody that you're going to say making Instagram reels as a hobby in your interview, everybody will be like, What you mad over? Why you have to say that? That is not considered to be a valid hobby, or accepted hobby generally by people. But how you say it matters. When I even if you say that making Instagram reels is my hobby, you need to let them know that what you gain, or what actually happens when you make Instagram, how it helps you. That you have to explain it. For example, let's say I make Instagram. So to make Instagram reel, you need to have, first thing, creativity. You need to be as creative as possible while shooting the reel. That is the first thing. And then you have to have a good observation skill, because let's say you recreate a reel, you would have watched that reel n number of times. So you need to have good observation skills, and it's not easy to make an Instagram reel as well. So there, your creativity helps, your observation skills actually help, and on top of that, you need to be precise. Like sometimes you have to go for 4, 5, 6 takes to make it real. So that says that 6 takes, 7 takes, people go. So you need to have patience, and you have this never give up attitude. I'm even if it is 7, 8 takes also, I don't give up. I still keep trying to get the best shot for the particular reel. So that says what kind of a person I am. Whatever work I involve myself to be in, I try not to give up. So this particular attitude has helped me a lot, and has helped me to reach where I am. This is just, I'm just saying for an example. So how you convince that making Instagram reel is a simple hobby, yet it has benefited you on a larger scale when it comes to your personal confidence. I never give up, so I keep pushing myself. So that helps me with my confidence. When I'm confident, I function better. I give my 100% effort. So this is exactly how you need to talk in an interview when it comes to explaining even a simple thing like making Instagram reel as a hobby. So that is why I keep saying what you say, more than that, how you say it matters. So you need to understand that. Okay. So that is the thing. Then you need to understand something, that the HR sees you as a resource. For you, it's a company, it's a job, and all those things. But for you, it might be a lot of things. But for the HR, you are just going to be another resource. So when I say resource, it's easy for them to find a resource. Now, let's say you don't match their expectation, or you don't satisfy their expectation, they can easily move on. Even in this class, if I want to take 10 people, I have options. I have almost like 47 students. From that 47 students, I have to choose only 10 people. So I have that option of choosing the 10 people. So it's easy for me to reject people when it comes to interviews, because of the amount of options that they actually have. So you guys need to understand that. So you are seen as a resource. When you're seen as a resource, you have to make them understand that you are going to add some value to that particular company. The resources, that's what they do. They add value. How will you add value?
So,
That is what they will check. How
if
you add
some
value to, yeah.
if someone saying reading or watching movies are their hobbies, how it will be?
Yes, you can say that. See, for example, let's say, as I told you, reading. When you say reading, you read a lot. What is the purpose for you to read? First thing, your English, your vocabulary gets developed, because when you read, you get to know a lot of new words, and you gather information, and then as I said, your creativity increases. Let's say you read a news. Like a couple of days back, we had a bomb blast in New Delhi. Red Fort bomb blast happened. Let's say you read that news. So when you read that news, first thing, you get some information. That is the first thing. So it helps me to know a lot of things. So when you know a lot of things, you tend to get a bit more confident. For example, let's say now I'm giving you a group discussion for this particular class, where I ask you to talk about, let's say, the Red Fort blast. What do you know about the Red Fort blast? Now, what happens is, everybody who actually read about that Red Fort blast will be more confident because that is something that they already know. So that gives them that confidence to speak. But when you don't know about something, you tend to be, little low on confidence. So first thing, when you read something, you get to know a lot of things that builds your confidence. You can say that. Second thing is it develops your English. That you can say. And depending on what you read, your creativity will also improve. Let's say I read a novel. Now you would have heard this term where a lot of people, you would have heard them saying that when any novel is made into a movie, people always say that the novel is better than the movies. Most likely that will be the case. Very rarely only people who read the novel will actually like the movie. Why do you think that is? Because when you read a novel, you tend to run the story in your mind in your own way. For example, let's say whatever I'll talk about Indian authors. So there was a um, book which came, which was written by Chetan Bhagat, called Two States, which was made into a movie as well. When you read Two States, you tend to, you know, imagine the story, or you tend to run the story in your own way. So you tend to be creative. You will build your own uh, like university that you read in that novel. So everybody will be a subject of your own creativity. But when you see a movie, it is a part of somebody else's creativity. So somebody else has made the movie, you're just seeing it. So you will try to match it with your creativity and what is being projected to you on the screen. So there, what happens is that mismatch will happen. What you actually saw in your creativity might be better because that is the subject of your creativity. You would have liked it better. So even if you say reading as a part of hobby, you can say that it has helped me in all these skills. Even watching TV also, you said the same. Watching TV, what happens? Why do you watch TV or why do you watch movies? You watch movies for few reasons. First reason is entertainment. You want to relax yourself. Let's say you're stressed. You want to go out to watch a movie with your friends. So first thing is it helps you relax. It acts as a stress buster. So when you're stressed, I tend to use watching movies as a hobby, which helps me relieve my stress. So when I'm out of stress, when I'm free from stress, I actually can work more effectively. My uh, effort in any aspect gets better when I'm out of stress. So this particular hobby helps me to relieve stress. Watching movies, even if it is watching movies, listening to music calms me down. So whenever I'm stressed or whenever I'm out of ideas, I listen to music. It calms me. It helps me, get over that particular stress so that I can think clearly, so that I can put 100 percentage, thought process on anything that I do. That is how it helps. So you can say it in this way. So that is why I keep telling you, even if you say hobbies, you can say it in this way so that the HR feels that okay, this person is getting something. This person is clear. He or she knows what is the reason behind or how I use my hobbies for my personal benefit, not just doing just for the sake of doing. So this is what they will expect. This is the differentiation that I'm talking about when it comes to the students. 40 students, somebody who comes up to me says that okay, this is my hobby. For example, I'll tell you what my hobby was. When in my Infosys interview, I told the HR that my hobby is ornamental fish breeding. Okay, so this is what I told. Now, what is ornamental fish breeding? Now, first thing, you imagine yourself to be the HR. If a candidate comes to you and says that ornamental fish breeding is my hobby, now what will be your first question, or what will be your first thought? You will either try to know what is ornamental fish breeding, or you will try to know, or you will try to see whether this person is actually genuine or not, or is just lying for the sake of interview. These are the two things that will come into mind for any HR. Either they'll try to know what is ornamental fish breeding, or they'll try to know whether the candidate is genuine or not. So irrespective of whatever the thought is, what will be your first question? You will ask what is ornamental fish breeding. So what is happening now? Now I am telling something in an interview as a candidate and telling my hobby is ornamental fish breeding, now I know that what will be the thought process behind it. The HR will try to know what is ornamental fish breeding, or the HR will try to test whether I'm genuine or not. Both aspects, the question will be ornamental fish breeding. What is it? So what happens here? I am preparing for a question for which I already know the answer, and I will make sure that the HR asks me in the interview. So that is the reason I brought that as a part in my interview. When I say hobbies, my hobby is ornamental fish breeding. When I say this, I know that is going to be the question. So indirectly, I am making the HR ask me a question for which I have already prepared the answer. So what is ornamental fish breeding? Now it sounds like a very fancy term, but the simple term is ornamental fishes are the decorative fishes. So you go to these aquariums, get those fishes, and then you put it in a fish tank at your home, and you just it's basically like having a fish tank and putting in different ornamental fishes. That is basically what ornamental fish breeding is. But I use the word breeding. Breeding means to raise something, or to um, increase the number. That is basically breeding. That is the actual term breeding means. But I put it in this way so that it sounds little fancy, and I try to explain the HR in a way. Now I cannot say a lame answer, of course. I cannot say this ornamental fish breeding is this is what I do. No, I need to give them more information. I need to know what are ornamental fishes, what are the different types of ornamental fishes. Now, when I said ornamental fish breeding as a hobby, I need to do some research on it. Of course. Now, we all know that we go to aquariums, we get all these fishes. But how do these aquariums get these fishes? Where do they get it from? So they get it from the different fisheries departments that we have. So there is a whole set of people who actually do this as a full-time job where they actually breed fishes. I told you that my ornamental fish breeding is my hobby. I never said that I do ornamental fish breeding. That is my hobby, which means that I get to know more about it. I research a lot about ornamental fish breeding, like where do these fishes come from, how do they breed these fishes. So that is the kind of information that I talk about when it comes to the hobbies. So it is important. Now, what will be the use of saying this in a hobby? You are trying to let the HR know that you're putting in effort for something which is unique. Now, if I say ornamental fish breeding as a hobby, now let's say there are 10 people. Out of 10, I am the only one who has ornamental fish breeding as a hobby. So the HR will remember me. Okay, this is the guy who had ornamental fish breeding as the hobby. So that is how I create a mark in the HR. So that is where you project yourself to be a unique candidate. Then, of course, first step is done. You made the HR remember you. Then you try to perform well in the interview by speaking well. That's where your confidence and communication comes into picture. So you need to understand that you are a resource when it comes to the HR. So a resource can add value, and at the same time, the resource can be rejected as well easily. So it's very crucial that you need to make the HR see you as a valued resource so that they don't reject you. How do you do that? Yes, of course, confidence, communication, and all those parts. Now, this is where your stages of interview comes into picture. Before interview, day of interview, during interview, and after interview. What do you actually do? Now, let's see different stages and what you actually do in the different stages. This is going to be like how you prepare for the interview. What are the different aspects that you need to focus on before preparing for an interview? First thing, before the interview, yes, as it says, research about the company. Yes, that is very important. You need to do at least a basic research about the company, whether what is the company's main work, whether they have any other branches. Let's say, for example, we have Larsen and Tubro. Larsen and Tubro is a company. Now, Larsen and Tubro recently acquired this company called Mindtree. Mindtree used to be a separate IPO IT company. Larsen and Toubro acquired it. Now if you see LTI Mindtree is actually a firm. Okay, it's a part of Larsen and Toubro. Larsen and Toubro, if you see, they have multiple branches. They have a construction, L&T Constructions. They have Larsen and Toubro mechanical division. They have electrical division. They have IT sectors. So the company has different aspects. So when you go for an interview to Larsen and Toubro, you need to know what are all the different aspects to understand whether you are actually a good fit for the company. First thing. Second thing is whether the company will add value to what your motive is. Like let's say I'm an IT student. I want to work in an IT company. Let's say I'm more interested in let's say data mining. So if I work in data mining, I have to see whether I can apply for a job which has this data mining field, or you have different data mining companies these days. So whether these companies are there where I can actually use my interest in data mining skill and the things that I learned about data mining in that particular job, whether that will help or not. So you need to first thing do a research about. Just give me a minute. Okay, okay, just give me a minute, guys. Just give me a minute, guys. Quickly, let me just open the. Okay, okay. Let me share my screen again. All right. I'm hoping everybody's able to see. So let's get into this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So first thing you need to do is you need to do a research about the company. So when I say research about the company, what does the company do? Where do you have the branches or different offices that they have? Locations, basically locations. Now these are the things which will not directly help you in an interview. They'll not be asking you questions on this, but this will help you to make a decision. So these things you need to understand. They have different divisions that they have. Prepare for all these aspects. Then comes the job description. This is very important. I will explain more about this when we were discussing about resume, but you need to understand the job description, what you are supposed to actually do in that particular company. Now, when you're applying for a company, irrespective of whichever uh, background you're from, they will expect you to have some knowledge when it comes to that particular job. When I say knowledge about that particular job, I told you about myself. Now, when I did my bachelor degree, I was not an IT person. I did my bachelor's in triple E, electrical and electronics engineering. But when I attended placements, the company that I attended for is Infosys, which is an IT company. Now you would understand, or you can think like how difficult it will be for a triple E candidate to attend an IT company's interview. And more than that, you need to understand that why would Infosys go through this extra, effort to hire a triple E graduate for an IT job? Because, as I told you, they give more importance to skill set. This knowledge is important. They will expect me to have some basic knowledge. So for me, what happened is I had three subjects when it comes to IT in my bachelor degree. So the first subject was fundamentals of programming, which I had in my first year. Then in my second year, I had a subject called data structures and algorithms, and in my third year, I had a subject called as computer architecture. So these three subjects only I had. So what I had to do is when I'm applying for Infosys, I have to learn some IT stuff which can add value to my profile when it comes to the job. Now, obviously, I will not be as knowledgeable as an IT person. So for that, I need to make up for that lack of or that missing knowledge that I have. I need to make up with that by making myself more fit to the job description. For example, let's say I'm applying for an IT job. This is like a software developer. I need to make sure that I can be a good software developer, irrespective of coming from an electrical background, which actually happened. So I was able to convince the HR that I had good knowledge when it came to Java. So I had to explain them. So for that, you need to understand the job description. What is the job description so that you can prepare accordingly. So researching about the job description is also important. Even if it is not Java, it can be another technology. It can be .NET or it can be Python. It can be C Sharp. It can be anything. So you need to do this research about job description to sort your preparation for that particular job. Ensure resume fits your story. Now, what does it mean? Ensure resume fits your story. So when you make your resume, you add certain aspects. Okay. So when you add certain aspects in the resume, it has to be aligned with two things. First thing, it should be aligned with the job. Second thing, it should be aligned with your profile. Now, let's say you learned Java technology. When you're applying for an IT company, obviously you're going to mention that as your interest. Area of interest is software development or Java development, or it can be Android app development, or it can be iOS app development. It can be anything. But when you're adding it, it has to have a backstory which should align with the job and with the profile that you have. Now, you cannot say that I'm interested in microprocessor and microcontroller when you're applying for an IT job. Yes, you might be interested in microprocessor, microcontroller, but how is that going to add value to an IT job? No, it's not going to add value. So there you have to be careful and you have to make your resume so that it is suitable for that particular job or for that particular company. Tricky and tough questions, which we'll discuss. What are the tricky and tough questions that you'll have? Plan answers for typical questions. So this two are basically you are preparing for the questions. So this is before you're going for the interview. You prepare yourself for the questions. Yes, of course, practice well. That is going to be there. But other than this, questions. So now we are going to see the questions. What are the different types of questions that you can have in interviews? Because these are all the things that you have to do before the interview starts. So let's discuss about the questions. Now, by default, the question that you're going to get in any interview is self introduction. This is going to be a standard question, self intro, or introduce yourself. This will be a standard question. Any interview, you will have this question. An interview is incomplete without having this particular question. So it's very important that you need to prepare a good self introduction. Now, when I say good self introduction, the self introduction has to be for 1 minute. If you're having really good things to tell, 2 minutes. So 1 to 2 minutes max, I'm saying. But I would say the standard time is 1 minute. Why one? 1 minute is ideal is, imagine you're asking a self introduction to a student. What will they start with? What is the usual self introduction that people will say? They will start with, I am so and so person. I'm coming from this college. I've done this particular degree course. I come from this particular place. Let's say I come from Kannur, or I come from Kasargod, or I come from Alapi, or whatever. Let's say this is what you will say. Now, if you notice, all this information is already there in the resume. Now, what you're doing, you're just reading out your resume. You're just blurting out your resume. You're already saying the things that are already there in the resume. Now, if you keep doing this, at some point of time, the HR will get bored because the HR will obviously have your resume. So he's seeing your resume, and you're just saying that you've done this particular degree from this particular college. It's already there. So you're not saying anything interesting yet. So you need to make your self introduction interesting because that will be kind of your first impression when it comes to your interviews. So, what are the ideal things that you can say in a self introduction? Ideal things, what people say is different, but ideal things, how what can make your self introduction good? That we will see. Okay. So, first thing, obviously, yes, name is important because that is the proper way of self introduction. You start with your name. If it is an on campus interview, you don't have to tell your degree and your college because the HR already knows that the HR has come to your college for training. So in that case, you don't have to tell your degree and your college. If it is an off campus, yes, you can tell your college. I am from this college, or you can say if it's an off campus, but don't take too much time for this. This name and your degree and college should be in 5 seconds, not more than that. Okay. And some people I have noticed they will start telling about their project and all those things. Not needed. Okay. Especially final year, people in final year students will already start explaining about their projects. Not needed. Unless and until asked, you don't have to tell about projects. So self introduction is you're introducing yourself. So you need to tell them who you are, what kind of a person you are, what are your strengths and weaknesses, like what do you do in your free time. You can say all these things. You can talk about your strengths and weaknesses. Weakness also I wouldn't say. Strengths, yes, you can say. Weakness, if asked, you can say weakness if asked, because you don't say your weakness unless and until it's asked. You don't go and tell them something as your weakness, which is like you're giving them reasons to reject you. Let's say that you are uh, kind of you're not having good attention span. If you say that as a weakness without even asking, it's like you're giving them reasons to reject you, or you're giving them reasons to not hire you. So these weakness, if they ask, you can tell. Otherwise, you can say strengths. When I say strengths, you can say I'm a curious person, or I'm a creative person. I have good leadership qualities. I'm a generally a person who work well in teams. So these are the strengths that you can actually say, which will add value to your profile. So you are basically trying to convince the HR that you have so and so skills, so that you can actually tell the HR that these skill sets of mine will actually help for you and your company and in the job. Let's say I have good team building skills. So when I work in a team, I can perform well. So at that point of time, I can add value to my team by contributing different ideas and by giving them or helping my fellow peers. I can do that. So you can say that as a strength. Then you can say that I'm a person who doesn't give up on things easily. So when if I don't know something, I put in extra effort to learn and then work on it. So I will constantly keep rebuilding myself. I will not be satisfied, which keeps pushing me to work better. So I'm a kind of a determined person. I never give up. So these are the things which will add value to your profile. You can say your strengths and hobbies. As I told you, if you feel it will add value, you can say. Or if you're able to say it in a way that it feels like it's adding value, you can say that. For example, let's say I told you about ornamental fish feeding, or you can say that reading books or reading novels. If you feel that, or if you feel that you can actually say that in a convincing way, you can tell your hobbies as well. Okay? Then you can talk about your technical aspects. When I say technical aspects, it will be related to your job, related to job. Let's say you're applying for an IT company, you can say that you're good at programming. I have good logical thinking skills, so which makes me a good software developer because for software development, programming is important, and for programming, logic is important. So I'm a person with good logical thinking skills. I have good presence of mind. I don't get demotivated when I face a stressful situation. Instead, I take it up as a challenge. So these things you can say in the strengths. So technical aspects, same thing. You can say in terms of I know Java or I know Python or that is related to the job. You can say that in the self introduction. How you will be a fit for the job. What are the technical aspects that can actually add value in the job and to your profile as well. So you can say all these things. So self introduction, don't make it a usual self introduction. And sometimes what happens is this Sandeep actually recently faced this in an interview in a college. So he went to a college. He did a mock interview. So we had people who were actually having the same name and they are of course from the same college. So he was not able to differentiate the girls. Like it was like two girls who are having the same name. He was not able to differentiate them. So how will he differentiate them? Let's say there are two people having the same name. They're from the same college. I can differentiate them only with these things, with the strengths, with their hobbies, or how good technical aspects they're from. Only from these things they I can differentiate them. So you need to explain all these aspects. So self introduction, you can say all these things. You can tell about your projects if asked, or if you feel like, or if you feel it will add value. For example, let's say that my final year project in my master degree, I did a thesis which was detection of lung cancer using artificial intelligence and neural networks. This was my project. So I am proud of my project. Okay, so because detection of lung cancer was actually a good project. It is helping a lot of people. So I am always motivated to use my technical knowledge or use my skill set or knowledge, whatever it is. I want it to be useful, either for the society or for the company or whatever it is. I want to make sure that what I learn doesn't go uh, unused. I want to use what I learned. I want to effectively implement the things that I learned. So I am proud of my project. So obviously I'll tell about my project. My final year, I did this as project. Now the reason is so and so. You can say all this. This is how you build a self introduction. Now all these things you have to say it in a short span. Don't be like too. Don't give them a too long self introduction and make them lose interest. So you have to be crisp. So sit and prepare for these things. So this is where you can actually say. You can say your long term goal, short term goal. After 5 years, I would like to see myself as a manager. You can say that. Long term goal, short term goal. Short term goal is for now, I want to work in a company where I actually use the skill set that I have or where I want to use my knowledge. You can say these things. So you can say all these aspects because these things will not be there in the resume all the time. Yes, sometimes people had hobbies, sometimes people had strengths. Long term goals, short term goals are things that will not be there in the resume. So you're saying something that is new to the HR, which will actually intrigue the HR. So you should say it in an interesting way. So you can prepare for all these aspects, self introduction. So that is your first thing. Then what you can say is after the self introduction, the questions. What questions you can expect? They will ask you some technical questions. or I'm just saying in general, they might ask you technical questions, they might ask you some personal level questions. Personal level questions, they'll try to get to know more about you. For example, they will say, um, there is I have faced this. I'm just sharing this from my own experience of interview. So in my 10th standard, my percentage was 80 percentage. In my 12th standard, I got 85.4 percentage. In my college, I had my CGPA as 7.6. So if you see, I'm not a very studious person. I'm an average to above average student. So the HR, when I went to Infosys interview, the HR asked me this question that, I can see your marks. You have 80 percentage in 10th. Then again, you increased to 85.4 percentage in your 12th, and then you have 7.62 in your college CGPA. So there has been a fluctuation of marks. What is the reason behind it? They will ask you this question: why is your marks very inconsistent? Now, how can you answer this question? Now, I already told you in an interview, more than what you say, how you say it matters. So you can start with saying something. I'll tell you what answer I gave. I started saying that yes, in my uh, 10th standard, so I had to work hard to learn something because I was not able to focus completely on academics alone. So I was basically a sports person. So I was into sports. So I had to focus on my sports. I've participated in many zonal football games in my school time. So initially, it was hard for me to do multitasking, where I was able to focus on my academics and my sports extracurricular activities. I was not able to concentrate equally on both because I was very young and it was initially very hard for me. But I started getting better at it as with age, as I started, becoming older. I learned from my experience and I started handling it better. I started doing multitasking in a better way, which was evident in my 12th standard. Again, when I came to college, what I had in my school and what I had in my college were completely different. In school days, the practical aspects were not much. But when it came to engineering, you had to apply a lot of practical aspects, which was kind of again new to me. On top of that, I'm a kind of a person who doesn't focus only on academics, but I make sure that I don't flunk or I don't perform too bad in my academy. I didn't use the word flunk, obviously. But I told him that I make sure that I perform decent enough in my college as well. I did not have any history of arrears. Yes, I'm not a very studious person, but I made up for that in my extracurricular activities. So I participated in a lot of clubs, I participated in a lot of activities where I actually learned a lot of things other than my academics. So I told this thing. So I was focusing more on extracurricular as well, but I made sure that I perform well in my college also. That was evident in my marks. So 7.6 is a decent CGPA. And I did not have history of arrears also. So this I explained to the HR. So this is how you actually explain questions. When I told you about tricky and tough questions, this question is tricky because each person will have a different answer for this. So that is where you need to be. Presence of mind is very important for tricky questions. For tricky questions, because you can prepare for 100 questions also, but still the HR will ask you a hundred and first question, the question that was not prepared by you. You can get such questions. So be prepared for the unexpected. Don't say that what you prepared only. So it's like be prepared well enough and expect the unexpected in an interview. Now, obviously, before all these things, you need to work on certain personal skills, which we'll discuss like during the interview. Confidence and the two C's that I keep talking about. This is very, very important. Only if you excel in these two things, all these things you can actually do it. Okay. So unexpected questions you can get. Sometimes they'll give you scenario based questions. For example, they'll give you a question like, let's say you work in a project and you become a team lead. And in your team, there are two people who are having, let's say, conflicts. They're having issues. They don't work well as a team. So you can't afford to have that in your team. So as a team lead, what will you do? How will you handle this situation? They'll ask you like this scenario-based questions. Okay. So that can also be tricky. Scenario-based questions will be asked in your interviews. Now, all these things I'm talking about the non-technical part. Technical aspect, technical questions, depending on the job. I'm talking about all non-technical questions. Okay. Technical question, what they can ask you, for example, if it's an IT job, they'll ask you about any programming language. They'll ask you to write a program using any knowledge, any language, or they'll ask you concepts related to any particular um, language. For example, there is a concept called threads in Java. Let's say you write Java as your language in your resume. They'll try to ask you questions from Java. They'll ask you about data structures. They'll ask you about threads and all those things. They'll ask you syntax. They might ask you. That is all technical question. I'm talking about non-technical question. So you need to understand that this. So they'll ask you scenario-based questions, and they can ask you questions from your profile. For example, they'll ask. Let's say you don't have any extracurricular activities in your resume. So the HR sees that there is no any extracurricular. But you scored very well when it comes to your academics. Let's say you have 9.5 or 9.2 CGPA, but sports activities was not there, cultural activities or any club activities, nothing was there. So they'll ask you a question like, okay, I can see that you have a very good academic skills. Your percentage is good. Your CGPA is good. I can see that you're a very studious person. Apart from your academics, what do you do? This will be a question. So for that person, what will be the answer? Like that person doesn't have any extracurricular activity or any club activities or sports activities. Nothing is there. So how will you answer that question? So that's why I told you you have to use your presence of mind. So you need to understand that you cannot like you know say that no, I don't have anything. That is not a good answer. But instead you have to come up with an answer which is convincing according to your standard. Now, for a person who doesn't have any extracurricular activities, sports or cultural activities or anything, what you can say is you can talk about your hobbies. Apart from this, I do this hobby. Now, your hobby, you cannot say that your hobby is, very a simple hobby like watching TV. Because that is not, that is nowadays, watching TV has become a habit or watching movies has become a habit. So, as I told you, if you want, you can explain it in a way that we discussed before, like, I watch movies because though I'm a very academic person, I handle my stress by watching movies. So I do that, and I like researching about something. I like, for example, I have this habit of reading true stories about people. So I have this habit. So I will say that. So whenever I see a movie, if it is based on a true story, I'll try to know the history. That builds my curiosity, and that curiosity actually helps me to know a lot of things. You can say stuff like this. Okay. So you need to have an answer. You need to prepare an answer for such questions. What do you do apart from academics? They will ask you, why should I hire you? This is a very like how self introduction is there. This is one of the basic questions or like common questions that you can expect. Why should I hire you? So they're what they are expecting. They are expecting you to explain about your skills, explain about your value. How will you add value to that particular job? They will explain. They'll expect you to explain about you. I'm a very creative person. I'm good at working in teams. So all these things will add value. I have good knowledge when it comes to this particular concept. I'm somebody who actually works harder each and every day to get better. I will also push my colleagues. I don't want to just grow alone. I want the whole team to grow together. I'm that kind of a person. So I will always keep pushing my colleagues to get better, which will give me good ideas. So you can say stuff like this. This is what will keep you unique. So questions. So you can expect these kind of questions. Why should I hire you? What is your long-term goal, short-term goal? They can ask you. If you've already told in your self-introduction, they won't be asking. Otherwise, they might ask you that. Then they can ask you why. This question was again asked to me. Why do you want to work in an IT company after doing your bachelor degree in electrical and electronics? You are basically a triple E graduate. You can work in an electrical company. Why do you want to work in an IT company? So the answer that I gave was, see, when I started my engineering, I wanted to choose a field where I can actually learn all the aspects of engineering. But what happened is when I did my research, I saw in computer science engineering, you learn more about the software and computer related aspects. There was no much information or knowledge about hardware. So what happens is I choose a stream of engineering where I can actually learn about the hardware aspect as well, and I can learn about the software aspect as well. So I wanted to learn both. So that is the reason I choose electrical engineering. Now, if you ask me to work in an electrical company, yes, I have the knowledge to work in an electrical company. And yes, I do have the basic knowledge to work in an IT company as well. I might not have the level of expertise that a software engineer has, but I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to get to that level. I have the basic knowledge that will help me to learn more when it comes to the IT job. I will keep pushing myself. For example, you can say like these days you have electric cars have become increasingly popular. So if you go to electric cars, hardware and software both play an important role. Yes, the mechanical aspects of the car. Then the electric, since an electric car, you need to focus on the electrical aspects, and of course, the functioning of the car requires software. For example, if you have seen a Tesla car, it is giving importance to all the aspects equally: technical aspects when it comes to mechanical parts, electrical aspects, and the software aspects. Now, UI is very important. The software UI is very important. So engineering is a combination of all these things, and I wanted to learn all these aspects. That is the reason that I choose electrical engineering. And upon learning all these aspects, I found the software aspect to be more interesting, which is why I want to explore in that particular field and I want to work in IT field. That is exactly the answer that I gave. And the HR was convinced. Okay, so that is why I keep telling you how you say things actually matters. Say it with a good conviction. Say it with a good, you need to be you need to believe in your answer first of all. You cannot be doubtful with your answers. That will actually help you when it comes to your interviews. So believe more in your answer. Right. So these are the aspects that you will need to prepare before the interview. Different types of questions. So you imagine yourself to be the HR. What questions will you ask from a candidate? Think about it. If you're not able to think, do the research. Like in if you go to online internet, so many mock videos are there. So many questions they'll give you list of questions. So search of all those things and prepare for all these things. That is what you need to do before the interview. You can prepare for as many questions as possible. If you get questions from that, it will be good. If you get questions out of it, you need to use your presence of mind and answer it. This most likely will happen in stress interviews. Oh no, we'll discuss about stress interviews later. Okay. Then day of interview. Day of interview, as the name says, dress code. Dress code is the most important thing because that creates an impression. When I say dress code, it has to be a professional dress code. So girls and guys, we have for guys formal shirt, formal pant, and contrast like the formal shirt. Let me talk about guys first, then we'll come to girls. Guys, formal shirt, formal pant. If you're very comfortable with blazer, you can wear it, but I would not recommend it because of the weather conditions that in our country. I wouldn't recommend wearing blazers and all. So formal shirt, formal pant. Have contrast match like light color shirt or dark color pant or dark color shirt, light color pant. Don't wear dark and dark. Light and light is still okay. Light color shirt and light color pant is still okay. But ultimately, you should be comfortable in this. So formal dress. When I say formal, full hand shirt with buttoned. That is more important. Tuck in your shirts. And if you are comfortable with ties, you can wear ties, not ties. If you know how to wear not ties, wear it. Otherwise, don't wear it. Okay. Then belt and shoes. Your belt and shoe color should be of the same size. So be mindful of that. And the socks color has to be matching with the pant. So be careful with that as well. Next, grooming. When I say grooming, how you present yourself, not the dress code part, other than that. Shaving, have a good haircut, don't have stubbles. Stubbles is like, the trimming of beard. Don't have stubbles. Don't have studs in your ears. And have a watch, good watch, a professional, decent watch. Don't wear digital watches. Not wearing watch at all is fine. But if you're wearing a watch, wear a analog watch. Don't wear a digital watch. A digital watch gives a sporty look that doesn't look professional for an interview. Then, if you have any bracelets or threads or anything, as long as it doesn't look very unprofessional, it's fine. So that you need to remember. First thing is your hairstyle. That is more important. Okay, punctuality. Yes, punctuality is very, very important. Be on time, because if you're not on time, they will move on to the next candidate. They will wait for max 1 minute. If your interview is 11 o'clock, if you are not showing up at 11, they'll wait till 11:01. Then they will move on to the next candidate. They will not give you, not every HR will give you another opportunity. So that is not there. Then double check. This double check, what I'm trying to say is you should have a file. Like that file should have all your certificates, your resumes, everything. So when I say file, have a closed file. When I say closed file, it's a zip file. Have that. Don't have an open file, because open file sometimes things can fall out of the file. So don't have a um, open file. Have a closed file. And order that you should place your certificates. Always resume first. After resume, your degree certificate. After degree certificate, your school, your college. Then your co-curriculars and extracurricular certificates. Like if you have participated in any paper presentation, project presentation, you can add that. Then you can add your extracurricular activities, sports, culturals, and all those things. Okay. Eyes are everywhere. That means they will be noticing each and everything, like your body language, how you present yourself, how you handle yourself. When I say that, this eyes are everywhere actually talks about your body language. Body language, when I say, a lot of people don't actually know what is the body language that I'm talking about. That is how you sit, how you enter in the hall, how you sit in the chair, how you shake hands with the HR, all these things. Okay, be calm, you did the best. Yes. So far you can prepare for all these aspects. Other than that, what you can focus on is not to get stressed. When you get stressed, you lose your confidence, you lose your concentration, then that will happen. Knock, knock. Knock, knock is when you enter. How will you enter the hall, interview hall? So you always knock or you ask, may I come in? They will ask you to come in, then you enter. And don't straight away go and sit in the chair. Wait for the HR. They will greet you or you can greet them. When the greeting is done, they will ask you to sit. Sit only if they ask you to sit. Otherwise, wait. That is the polite way in an interview. Don't straight away go and sit. And be firm with your handshake. Be firm with your eye contact. Yeah? Maintain a good eye contact. Maintain a confident eye contact. Be little uh, polite, like smile. Okay, don't be so nervous. Don't look nervous. So these aspects you need to focus on. Now, dress code when it comes to girls. Girls, same thing. Formal shirt, formal pant. You can wear. Like when I say formal shirt, formal pant for girls, half hand, full hand, both are accepted. Even for guys, half hand is accepted. But I would prefer for guys, full hand shirts will be more professional. For girls, that's not the case. Half hand, full hand shirt doesn't matter. You can wear it. Formal shirt, formal pant, you can tuck in, you can or tuck out as well. For girls, guys, don't even think about tucking out your shirt. Your shirt should always be tucked in. For girls, your shirts can be tucked out as well. accepted. Saris accepted as professional. Then you can wear your salwar and kurti, accepted. Don't wear leggings. Leggings are not considered professional. Don't wear leggings. And if you have your dupatta and all those things, wear it. But if you don't have it, that is also fine. Your kurti and your top and your kurti and pant, if you have any set, you can wear it. That is also considered to be professional. Just that, don't wear leggings, jeggings, and all those things. Okay, that is not considered to be professional. And girls, another important aspect is your jewelry, your ornaments. That will be part of your grooming. Okay, if you're wearing an earring, nose ring, accepted. Bangles, accepted. But don't wear a big earring or nose ring or anything. Okay? Don't wear that. Don't wear too big. Reasonable size is fine. Bangles are also accepted. Rings, bracelets accepted. Even for guys, rings are accepted. But if you notice, they will notice these aspects as well. So be careful. If you're wearing a earring, wear a earring with reasonable size. Don't wear jumkas and all. Don't wear that. That's not professional at all. And don't wear big earrings also. That also doesn't look professional. If you don't wear anything, is also fine. If you don't wear any earring or any stud or anything, any nose ring, that is also fine. But if you're wearing anything, make sure that it's small enough so that it looks makes it gives a professional look. Your hairstyle for girls, hair is very important. Braid your hair, single braid, not double braid. Double braid doesn't give a professional look. Single braid. Then you can wear buns, accepted. If you want, you can leave it loose hair also. But if your hair is too long, don't have loose hair. Okay, and like comb your hair properly. Don't leave any frizzes. Don't have fringes and all. Fringes are not considered professional, so don't have fringes. Other than that, it's fine. Okay. Rest of the things are same. File, body language, everything is same. And girls, be comfortable in what you wear. Okay, that is more important. You also don't feel uncomfortable. Don't make the HR also feel uncomfortable when it comes to your dressing. That is important. This applies to guys as well. Okay, so don't make the HR feel uncomfortable with your dressing. Okay, they should get a professional, like professional look from you guys. You should give them that particular thing. That is your day of interview. This is day of interview online. Okay, these days online has become online interviews have become a big deal. So online we are discussing about that as well. Logistics. When I say logistics, devices, lighting, disturbance free, power, plan B. So devices is always try to attend your interview using a laptop or a desktop with camera. That will be better. Don't try attending it in mobiles because mobile. If you are attending in mobile, the HR will get to know that you're attending in mobile because of the UI. Mobiles will have a rectangle UI in the shape of the mobile, so they will get to know. So always try to, and there will be a lot of disturbance as well. Sometimes you have to hold the mobile, you have to place the mobile in a holder, so that doesn't give a good look. So always prefer desktop or laptop, and make sure the lighting is good. The light should always be opposite to your face. Okay, so the light shouldn't be behind you. The light should be opposite. The light should be hitting on your face, so that your face is clear and your all your facial expressions they're able to see. They're able to see your face clearly. That is more important. Power, yes. Plan in a place where you actually have a good power backup. When I say plan B, always have an additional device. That additional device can be your mobile. If your laptop or desktop doesn't work, maybe you can keep your mobile as a backup. Dress camera friendly. When I say camera friendly, don't wear any gaudy colors. Like, don't wear too bright colors that are not camera friendly. But at the same time, you can wear something comfortable also. So suits the mood. If you want, you can dress like how you dress in an actual interview. You can dress the same way. Or if you don't want to dress up too much, make sure that your only your face and your upper part of your body will be visible. So that grooming has to be good. and make sure you're aware of about your surroundings in an online interview. Let's say you're attending an online interview, people might be walking behind you. To make sure that is avoided, because that has been a big problem, especially people in hostels. If you're attending your online interview from your hostel room, your roommates will be there, so they have to understand that you're attending an interview. You have to make sure that your roommates interference doesn't affect your interview. And even people at home, tell your parents, lock yourself in a room, where a quiet room that is there. Punctual, double check, be calm, and yeah. And this high aspect, okay. Never say hi in an interview. Always say hello. Okay. Hi is not professional. Hi is formal. If the HR says hi, then it's fine. But you don't say hi unless and until the HR says it. Always start with hello. Hello, sir. Good morning. Good morning, ma'am. Whatever it is, start with that. The online interviews. During the interview, yes, this is again important. Smile, be present throughout. So, as it says, it is very important that you need to be, you know, calm in an interview. How will you show your calmness? By showing a smile. You know, that says that you are not stressed. You are calm. By always have a smile in your interview. I mean to say smile. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo your smile. It'll look creepy. Okay, don't do that. Positive and confident, yes. Positive and confident. When I say that, how you carry yourself, how you sit in an interview. And a lot of people, they do this when they sit in an interview. They will try to move a lot. Like they'll try to keep their hands on the table. Don't do that. Don't keep your hands on the table when you're attending an interview. Keep your hand always on your lap. You can do that. And don't keep shaking your leg. I know sometimes people, nervous people, to overcome that nervousness, they'll keep moving their feet or they'll keep moving their hand. Don't do all those things. That weakens your body language. So don't do that. Okay. And rolling chairs. This is again important thing. If you're attending an actual interview in person, you might be given rolling chairs. Don't keep moving in the rolling chairs. Don't do that. That doesn't give a good impression. So at the same time, you have to be positive. Positive and confident. When I say positive and confident, eye contact is very important. You need to keep looking at the HR in a positive way, in a polite way, not in a creepy way. Okay. So when you look at the HR, you are expecting a question and you are ready to listen to the question. That is what your next part is, active listener, what they are actually saying. So only if you understand what they are actually saying, you will be able to answer it. Okay. So that you need to be aware of. Listen to the questions carefully, listen to the HR carefully, and then answer your question. Wait for the HR to finish the question. Sometimes you might know the question before even the HR finishes the question, yet wait for the HR to finish. Don't interrupt the HR. Don't do that. Okay. That you need to be careful about. Interest and passion. Okay, this is important. You need to understand the difference between interest and passion. Now, interest is something that you're curious about. Now, let's say, for example, I told you that I am basically an electrical engineering bachelor degree graduate with interest in IT. Now, my interest is in IT. Okay, but what do you mean by passion? Passion is something that you want to dedicate yourself to. That is your passion. So I might be interested in IT, okay, but you need to understand that if I'm not passionate enough to work in IT, I cannot be an IT employee. So your interest can be in one area, your passion can be in a different area, but when it comes to your job, you need to be passionate about the job that you're applying for. Okay? That you need to make sure that you let the HR know that what you're passionate about. Okay, you cannot say that I'm passionate about something that is totally irrelevant. You cannot say that. That is not going to add value. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be passionate only about your job. Doesn't have to be, but it helps. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Next one, honesty is the best policy, but hide that's not necessary for them to know. So this is very important. Okay, you can be honest, but don't be too honest if it's not going to help you. Yeah. So sometimes if you being honest doesn't add value to your profile, don't be honest. I'm not saying lie. That's not what I'm asking to tell you. Just don't overshare things. That's what I'm saying. Don't overshare things and let it backfire. Don't do that. Okay? Say things that are necessary. Say things that will add value to your profile. Say things that will add value to you. And if you feel like it's not going to add value to you, you don't have to say that. That's why I told you don't say weaknesses in your self introduction because that's not going to add value. But if they ask, you have to say what is your weakness. So you can say when I say what is your weakness, you can say that sometimes I spend too much time on things. So the time management aspect, I'm trying to work on it. But I make sure that if I spend more time on it, I make sure that I do it well. That can be one weakness. You can say that. Or some people have this weakness that they won't be able to say no to people. They cannot handle multitasks. That could be a weakness. So if asked, you can say all these weakness. But if they don't ask you, you don't have to say it. Okay? So that is something that you need important. Demonstrate your skills and expertise. This is also important. Ultimately, I told you need to add value to your profile. So when I say you need to add value to your profile, you need to explain about your technical skills and your personal skills. Technical skills, whatever you learned in your subjects, academics, you can say that as a technical part which is related to the job. And when you say personal skills, what we already discussed, like communication, confidence, interpersonal skills, or you can say team building, leadership, all these things you can say in time management. You can say all these things as your personal skills. Okay. So you can say the things which you are really good at. For example, let's say I I told in my interview that I have good leadership quality. So I cannot just say this, right? I cannot just say that I have good leadership quality. How will the HR believe you? If you just say that you have good leadership quality, anybody can say that, right? So you need to give them a valid explanation, or you need to give them a valid justification on why you feel that you have good leadership skills, leadership qualities. So I had to give them examples. In my college, in my final year or in my third year, I was a joint secretary of a particular club. So as part of being a joint secretary's responsibilities, I have to manage my juniors, second years and first years. I have to make them split into groups. I have to make them work as teams. I have to give them tasks. I have to give them work and make sure that they do the work effectively. So I started being a leader, or I started being a manager even in my third year as part of the club. And final year, I became the secretary of the same club where I have to take care of everything that is responsible as a club secretary. Whatever the club is doing, I have to make sure that everything is done everything is done in an effective way. So I was the secretary of the club. That shows my leadership quality. So you have to give them, you have to demonstrate it. You have to explain it. Why you feel that this is your skill, or why you feel that you have this expertise. You can say that you're good at Java. How? You can say that my final year project involves Java. So you need to explain them. That is where is what is important when it comes to your explaining your skill set and your expertise. Accept mistakes that are critical. This is very important, guys. Accept the mistakes that are critical. Don't try to defend unless and until you believe on something. Let's say that the HR feels that you need to work on your communication, which was evident from your interview. If you feel like you have done good and still the HR feels that, you have to say that you have to understand that the HR is not trying to say that it's not good. The HR is trying to say that there is a scope of improvement.
That means the expectation that they have from you is more. So you need to understand that. Okay, if the HR says that your communication can be better, you can say that yes, I understand that. I have been working hard on my communication. I will make sure that I get better at it. Each day I keep getting better than the previous day. So I will work on it. So you have to accept it and you have to make sure that you learn from your experience and you learn from your mistakes. And the last thing, tackling difficult questions. This is again important, guys. Tackling difficult question. See, easily the HR can ask you a question which can hit your ego. For example, they can ask you like, I don't see your profile. The HR will say this. I don't see your profile being a valuable profile. I don't think you will add any value to my company. If the HR says this, don't get dejected by this statement. That means you have not impressed the HR yet. So you have to understand that the HR is giving such statements so that you defend yourself. They are expecting you to defend yourself, but expecting you to defend in a way that is acceptable, that is not rude, and that doesn't bring out your ego. So you can say, I understand that. I understand this is what your expectation is. I'm working on it. I'm trying to do better. Wherever I went, I'm not good at first impressions, but later I was able to accomplish things. You can say stuff like this. So this will give them a better idea. So if they are not impressed with you instantly or initially with your profile, you have to make sure that they are impressed by the end of the interview. So if your profile is not impressive, or if the HR feels your profile is not impressive, you have to make up for it by your answers, by how you explain yourself, by how you explain about yourself in the interview. Okay, guys. So we started around like 10:15. So what we'll do is we'll have a 10-minute break. Be back by 12:10. Then we'll discuss the rest of the interview. I mean, rest of the session. And the session we can have it till 2:10. Okay. So I don't think it makes sense to have a lunch break in between. And since it's an online session, I don't think it makes sense to have an early lunch unless and until it is essential. Like if people are there in hostel, you have a specific hostel food timings. If you have anything of that sort, you can tell me. Otherwise, we can have a lunch break at 2:10. Is everybody okay with the 2:10 lunch timing?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's
all
okay.
right. So you guys can go for your break. Be back in 10 minutes. Okay, thank you, guys.
Let me share my screen. And then okay, so we were discussing about the things that you need to remember during the interview. Now, I told you, so it's very important that you need to remain calm and not get, you know, uh, nervous. Don't get overconfident as well. And try to be polite with your answers. Don't let your ego take the front seat. Sometimes there will be things which will test your ego in an interview. But you need to understand that it's you who needs the job. So put your ego aside and answer it as much as you can. So when I say this ego part, that is where your stress interview actually comes. I told you already that we'll discuss about stress interviews. Now, stress interview, I told you already, they will not tell you that it's a stress interview. But what is the idea behind or what is the purpose behind having a stress interview? Whether you can handle stressful situations, stressful situations, difficult scenarios, out of comfort zone. They want you to bring you out of your comfort zone. Why? Because that is how you will be doing in your work as well. So these three things they will test you on your stress interview. Now handle stressful situation. How will they do that? For that, they will put you in stress. Now, before we get into all these things, you need to understand how to identify whether an interview is actually a stress interview or not. Now, sometimes they'll do a combination. It'll not be just a stress interview. It'll be a personal interview where they'll check your capability to handle stress as well. How will they do that? They will put you in stress. What will they do? Once you enter, they'll not ask you to sit. They will ask you questions in a way that it will put you under stress. So sometimes what happens, I have also handled stress interviews also for students. So I will ask a student. Usually, what I'll do is I'll give them a scenario. I'll give them a scenario like you get an offer from a different company as well, with a higher package. What will you do? Now this is a hypothetical question. You haven't got any offer letter from a company yet. Okay. So you have to understand that they are checking how will you handle this particular situation. So they'll tell you like, okay, let's say I give you an offer, another company gives you an offer with higher package. Which one will you choose? Now this is where I told you being honest is okay, but it should help you. Your honesty should actually help you. If your honesty is not going to help you, it's not going to work. Now in this scenario, you haven't got the offer letter from the other company, but you are already sitting in an interview for this particular company. So how will you handle this question? So you like most of the times people will try to say I will switch because I'm getting higher package. People will say that. Some people who want to really impress this particular HR, they'll say no, I will not switch. Salary is not the only thing that is important to me. I will not just switch based on the salary. I'm here. I'm here for this interview. So this company is more important for me. They'll say questions like answers like this. But you have to understand that the HR would have seen thousands of candidates. So the HR would have already asked this question to some candidate and they would have already got an answer. So they will know whether you're being genuine or not. So if you're, I'm not going to tell you what answer you should give here. That depends on individual. But whatever answer you give, you should be able to justify. For example, let's say that if I say I'm going to switch, I'm going to move to the other company. So that will give an impression that you're giving more importance to package. You're giving more importance to money. Yes, of course, money is important, but money is not the only thing important. So you can give an answer saying that I will not make a decision unless and until I know about all the aspects, like giving a diplomatic answer. Now, this will obviously put you in a confusion. This will put you in a dilemma. You don't know what to say, what answer to give. So this is kind of like a stressful situation, like a stressful question where you actually have to give an answer and you can't take too much time to come up with an answer as well. So you have to give a diplomatic answer saying that no, I have to consider so many other factors like what is the job nature, what is the job profile, what is my role, what will be the reputation of the company, and what is the package. All these factors I have to consider before making a decision. So I cannot just make a decision based on the salary. You can try to put it in the HR's court. You can try to put the ball in the HR's court saying that I need more information. With the information that you have given me just now, I cannot. It is not enough for me to make a decision. Like, but just telling me that there is an offer letter. I need more information on this. So you can ask the HR. Like, if you could give me more information, I will be able to make a decision. Because for me, before I make a decision on what kind of a job I want to work in, I have certain factors. First factor is my job satisfaction, my value in that particular company. What is the reputation of the company? How will be my growth in the future? Now I might get higher package. What if I don't get growth in that company? So that has to be another factor. So I have to consider various other factors before answering this question. You can say something like that. For example, I'm saying. So that is how they'll try to put you in a stressful situation. And sometimes they'll not ask you to sit, they'll not smile, they'll not look at you, they'll not shake hands. And they will keep asking you questions in a kind of like a rude, not exactly rude, but you know, very a little bit hostile way. They won't be very polite, they won't be very nice. And they will ask you kind of like
direct questions. They won't be like, you know, they'll come straight to the point. For example, like, give me one good reason why I should hire you. They'll ask you a question like this. What makes you so special that you're applied for this job? They'll ask you a question like this. This, when you're asked this question, it obviously the first moment we listen to this question, we are taken aback. What makes you so special for this job? So that is like kind of like an offensive way to ask a question. They can ask you, how do you think you can add value to the company, to the job? They can ask you questions like that way. But they'll ask you like, what makes you so special for this job? So this kind of thing is to make you, get that feeling of taken aback, because you'll not be expecting such rude questions. So that's what I'm trying to say. Expect such questions also. Ultimately, their goal is they want to hire somebody for the company. They're paying salary. They're paying 4 to 5 lakhs for a fresher. Why should they pay that salary to you? They can pay it to somebody else, right? There might be a better candidate. What makes you better? That is what you need to convince. So be prepared for all these questions. Now that's why I told you they will not tell you it's a stress interview. So you have to understand that it's a stress interview. And don't say that it's a stress interview just because you got stressed in an interview. That is different. Okay. The actual stress interview, the questions will be stressful. The questions will be kind of like not very polite. The questions will be not very nice. It will be very direct questions, kind of like rude questions. They will not be diplomatic. They'll not smile at you. They'll not ask you to sit. They'll not greet you. So that is stress interview. Just because you get stressed doesn't mean it's stress interview. So you have to understand that. So be prepared. That's why I told you expect the unexpected. So a lot of research you need to do before the interview on what kind of a job it is. You can search in the internet for the reputation of the company. If it is not a very well-known company, you can search for the reputation. How good is the company is? What is the revenue? What is the growth? And now the scenario with IT market is not very great, especially after the US laws have been changing. So because most of the clients that Indian companies have are US clients. So you have to understand whether it's a service company or if it's a product company, what kind of services they provide. All those aspects you need to know, because they might ask you stressful questions through these things also. So that is what when it comes to stress interview. Okay. So this we already discussed during the interview. What introduce self-introduction, then company related, they might ask you company related things, job related things, domain specific. Now, what is job related and domain specific? There is a difference. There is a very minute difference between this. Job related is related to that particular job. For example, software developer is a job. Domain specific is, are you a Java developer? Are you a Python developer? Are you a front end developer? Are you a full stack developer? That is domain specific. Okay? So domain specific is kind of like a specialization. Specialization in that particular job is your domain specific. So you need to understand that domain specific questions also you can get. For example, if it's a Java developer, you'll be asked Java questions. So you need to be like, you need to be prepared about Java, that particular domain. Now you cannot say that I am a Python developer, and you cannot say that in a Java developer interview. You cannot say that. Now, most likely for freshers, they will not specify like this Java or Python, or they will not specify like that. It will be just software developer, system engineer, software consultant. They'll tell you, they'll give you details like this. So domain specific, if the job description has a domain specified, you need to prepare for that domain as well. Then the HR questions, general questions, behavioral questions, situational awareness, tricky or trap questions. Now, tricky questions, as I told you, they can ask you, why should I hire you? What qualities, what skills do you think that you have for this particular job? Why is your mark so less? What is your extracurricular activity? These are the tricky questions which can actually differentiate. Like each person will give an answer depending on his or her own awareness. So that you need to be careful about. General questions is like they'll ask you strength, weakness, all those things that you actually told in self introduction. That will be a general.
Behavioral question is what I told you, right? So they'll give you a scenario and they'll ask you how you will behave in that particular scenario. Like I told you about the team lead part. They'll say, let's say you're a project manager. You have an employee who's not doing his or her work effectively, which is affecting the rapport with the client. The client is not happy with that particular thing. You have to fire that person. You have to fire that person from the project. How will you handle the situation? How will you fire that person? What will you do? Or if you, let's say that you need to um, let that person know that that person's behavior is actually causing problems in the project and in the company. So you have to fix it. You have to rectify it. How will you do that? This is behavioral questions. So based on how you act in a particular scenario, how you behave. That is the same when it comes to situational awareness. Situational awareness and this both these things. Situational awareness. One minute. Situational awareness is actually okay. This is too less. Situational awareness and behavioral questions. They both are same only. They both depend on how you react, how you respond. There is a difference between react and respond. Okay. React is how you act when you're put in a situation. Respond is how you take a decision in a particular situation. That is respond. Okay, so you need to understand the difference between react and respond. So these things will be helpful for you in terms of your interviews. After interview. Okay, this is just for an information for you guys to know. Okay, what you need to do after interview. So after interview, first retrospect, identify, implement. This is your personal experience. Retrospect is like how did the interview go, how you performed in an interview, what you can do to improve yourself, what are the places areas where you can actually do better, identify those areas, what are you actually good at, make it more stronger. So retrospect yourself, identify the strengths and weaknesses of yourself from the experience that you had in an interview, and then implement it. If it is a positive, implement it. If it is a negative, overcome it. Okay? That is what you need to do from your personal experience. This is after interview. Follow up, but do not irritate. This is if you have the HR's contact, try talking to that HR. Try to follow up, like get an idea on when you will be getting a result or when you will get to know whether you got selected or not, like that. But don't you know keep irritating the HR because that's not professional. Assignment and tasks. Yes, obviously, if you have any assignment and task which is given by the company, follow it up, do it on time, and submit it on time. This I had, like I will tell you from my experience when I got placed in Infosys. Infosys gave us an online module for us to prepare, like to learn. That actually gave us an overview on how the initial stages of our Infosys the job will be. So when I joined as a trainee, system engineer trainee. So where they actually trained us for 2 to 3 months on the topic. That is why they hired non-IT students because they'll hire non-IT students and they'll train. But IT students were not given this training because IT students already had that in their academics. So they will be put directly into the project. So for those people, they gave this assignment and tasks to see whether they're actually good at it or whether they need training. So just because you are computer science graduate or an IT graduate doesn't mean that you have to be good at all technical aspects. So they'll give you these assignments and tasks to see whether you're actually good at uh, these aspects or not. This happens to non-IT students also. They will give all of them this thing. They will see whether they perform those assignments or tasks successfully. If they perform successfully, based on how they perform, they will categorize those people. Whether this person needs training or whether this person is ready for the project, whether project ready or whether training is required. So this after interview, if you have any assignments or tasks, that is also important. Okay. So this is it when it comes to interview. That should be it. Now questions, guys. Any questions you guys have, you can ask me. If you don't have questions, we can move on to resume. But I would recommend please ask questions. I'm open to questions. So if you have any questions, I told you already, try to make this session interactive. So if you have any questions, please do ask me. Any questions, guys? Anyone? Any questions related to interviews or any question, guys? Whatever question you have, you can ask me. How should you respond to salary expectations? Okay, so for that, first thing, this starts with okay. Thank you, Bhavit, for this question. This is a good question. How should we respond to salary expectation? Two things. Okay, when you are asked for salary expectation, you need to understand the market scenario. Okay, so if it is a software developer job for a fresher, let's say for a fresher, what is the market salary? That you have to do before your interview. You have to do that research. Okay, and always ask some. Let's say you researched and you got to know the market value. The fresh for fresher, it's 4 lakhs per annum. Always ask like you can say like I did a research for the average package for a fresher and I got to know that it's 4 to 4.5 lakhs. So I'm expecting that. You can put it like that. If the company can afford that, they will tell you, yes, this fits in our budget, so we can give you. So don't be demanding. Okay. And at the same time, don't also underestimate yourself. Okay. So you are an engineering graduate with so and so skill set. So there is a value for your profile. So if your interview went well, if you're confident about your interview, show that confidence while answering this question, saying that for my skill set, I feel like this is the package that I can expect 4 lakhs or 4.5 lakhs. You can ask more also, 5 lakhs. You can, if you're really confident about your skill set and if you're really confident about how your interview went, you can actually tell them a higher package also. But don't be like if I don't like there it has to be like a negotiation. It has to be like you are telling you are giving your idea, and if that idea is convenient for the HR, they will proceed with it. If that idea is not convenient, they'll say like no, that is the salary that we cannot afford. Like we cannot afford to give 5 lakhs for a fresher. In that case, okay. In that case, what is you can ask the HR. See, it's a conversation. It's a professional conversation. You need to understand that the HR is here to check whether you're suitable or not, whether you're fit or not. So you can ask for a salary, but at the same time, don't be rude, don't be demanding. Try to be diplomatic and give a value that is reasonable. So you can ask. And one more thing, when HR asks you, do you have any questions? You can ask about the salary. Yes, you can ask. I have a career gap after marriage. Okay, so this is something that you need to understand that they have already they would have already seen your profile. In your profile, they will get to know whether you have a career gap or not. They would have already seen that. For example, let's say you would have mentioned in your resume that you did your bachelor degree. Let's say in 2022, you finished your bachelor degree, and now you're applying for a job. So what you can say is you would have done some preparation, correct? You would have done some preparation for the interview. You can say that as what you did in your career gap. So, due to certain issues, whatever issues, if you wish to say the issues, you are not able to proceed with the work because of various logistic issues. You had to
relocate to a different location. Because of that, I was not able to continue working. But once I got settled with the place, and once my situation, I was able to overcome my situation. I tried to apply for the job. Now, during this gap, I did not. You cannot say that you've stayed idle. That is the most important thing. Okay. So the positive way that you're asking is you cannot say that you've been idle. So you have to tell them that you've done something. What have you done? You can say that I've done my preparation. I learned this technology. Now, if you have a certificate, it's well and good. That shows proof that you learned. If you don't have a certificate, you have to explain a bit more on what you did in that career gap. So I had a gap. I acknowledge it, acknowledge the gap, and then you can say that during that gap, I did not sit idle. I wanted to work on myself so that when the time comes where I'm able to work, I'm ready for that. So what did you learn? You can say you learned some technology. You can say that you learned something. But if you genuinely were not able to do something, let's say you felt sick, or if you are genuinely not able to do something, you can say that also. You can acknowledge it, because you have to understand that it's not like they get to know about your gap only in the interview. They already saw your profile, they liked your profile, and only then they are aware of that gap. That's why it's important that in your resume you need to mention your year when you did your uh, degrees, like your bachelor degree or master degree or whatever it is. It's important. But if you've not mentioned, and if they get to know it in the interview, if they are not okay with it, irrespective of whatever you say in a positive way, they will not hire you. So that you need to see whether they accept you or not, irrespective of that gap. So what you can say that you learned something. You can say you learned some technology, or you are working on learning something new. So that is the most suitable answer that you can give for career gap after marriage. If you have any maternity things, especially for girls, you can put that also. So you had some complications, so you had to take a break. If you're not feeling good emotionally, you can say that as well, because these days the companies and the HRs, they are giving importance to this mental health concept, which was not the case before. Like 10-15 years back, mental health was not given much priority, but now they are giving importance to that. But at the same time, as I told you, how you say it matters. So I was not doing well emotionally, so I had to take a break to sort myself out, to pick myself out, and then you can say that. So you know that you have a career gap. So prepare an answer in either way, whether competitive exam preparation. Okay, let me be very honest. Thank you, Bindya, for this question. You don't say this. You do not say this in an interview. You have a gap for a competitive exam preparation, because see, you imagine yourself to be a HR. Okay, so you find a candidate who's telling that you have a gap for a competitive exam preparation. So what will the HR impression be? So you are not initially okay working as an IT person, or you are not if it's an IT job, I'm saying, for example, or whatever job it is, you are not initially okay with working in that job. You went for a competitive exam. Now that competitive exam did not work out, that's why you're coming to me. That is the impression the HR will get. This impression is not going to help you at all in any way. That's why I told you honesty is good, but this the HR doesn't have to know why you took a gap. If it is not going to add value, the HR doesn't have to know this. Whether you took a gap for a competitive exam or not, what is the HR going to do knowing that? Or what? How is it going to help you? It's not going to help you at all. So even if that is the case, you don't say this in an interview. If it is for a competitive exam preparation, you don't say it. Instead, you can say like you've done some learning, you've done some course, you've done some certification. You can do that. You have to have a valid answer for that gap.
So the valid answers could be the best part is preparation or learning, not for competitive exam, but for some job. So you would have had an idea. Like suddenly you didn't get to know that you're applying for this company, right? You would have been applying for this company for quite a while. So that time only start preparing something, start learning something, so that you can explain what you did in that gap. If it is a competitive exam, don't say it. See, I will tell you one thing very honestly. I don't know if many trainers would say this. Uh, they will say don't lie only, but I will not say that. Lie if you have to in an interview, but make sure you don't get caught. That is the most important thing. Okay? But most of the time, people say don't lie because most of the times you will get caught. The HRs would have seen so many people, and we are not very comfortable with lying in interviews, so we'll get caught. That's why people say don't lie. But if you are talented enough, you can actually lie in an interview. Otherwise, just hide these things. Competitive exam preparation now, don't say. Hmm. Career gap after marriage is actually fine, Asmita. So a lot of companies are accepting now. These days, what the companies are doing is they are even creating a program for people with career gaps. It's like kind of like a second chance because they have this impression that people who missed that chance will understand the importance of having a second chance. So those people will be more dedicated in doing the job. That is the impression that they have. And a lot of companies are being these days. The government is also asking, encouraging the companies to go for these people so that it adds value to the company also. Let's say that there is a company recently. Deloitte did this. Deloitte actually introduced a program for people with career gap, not just girls, even guys, whatever be the reason. So a lot of people who are having career gap, let's say they went to do their master degree and they were not able to finish their master degree, or people who had to take break from work because of sickness, like mental sickness, like when I say mental sickness, stress. I'm talking about stress, and people they might have attended therapy sessions. Okay. So in that case, those people are given the second chance through these programs. So they are giving importance to that. But just that this competitive exam preparation doesn't give a very good impression. So you don't have to say that. All right. Any other questions, guys? And also, I told you that if HR asks, do you have any questions? Ask anything, but ask only if you have a valid question. Like, you can ask what will be my growth in the company. So you can ask for feedback. How do you think I can get better in an interview? You can ask like that. These things you can ask actually. So it's not wrong to ask HR questions, but make sure those questions are reasonable questions and those questions are good questions. Don't ask silly questions. That's what I'm trying to say. Salary you can ask. You can ask the job location. You can ask the growth. You can ask about on-site opportunities. So because all these things actually shows some curiosity. You are curious, so you can ask. Any other questions, guys? If not, we'll
Hi,
start.
sir. Sir, if I'm looking for some career change options, like currently
Hmm,
I'm working with the banking industry, and if I'm looking for some
hmm.
technology site,
Okay. Okay.
how
So
I can
you're
definitely
asking in an interview perspective, or you're asking on a preparation perspective? How are you?
interviews means in interview the
Okay.
lecturer will ask like how why you're changing from banking industries to the technology,
Okay.
and what
Okay.
are the motives for that?
Okay. So let's say you have work experience as a banker. Now you want to switch to
Yeah,
technical field.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can say like, see, these days, even certain banks they have uh, separate technical sectors. For example, South Indian Bank and all, they have a
Mhm.
separate software sector where they hire software professionals who work in South Indian Bank, especially for the website. So you can say something like, when I started working in banks, I got to learn a lot about the technical aspects when it comes to the websites and all those things, how the websites were developed. And so I closely had to work with a lot of technical aspects, which created an interest in the technical aspects. I wanted to learn more about the technical side. You can say something like that. So first thing
Okay.
is you have to give them a reason on why you are getting that interest. Now that
Mhm.
reason cannot be a reason like salary, package, or it can't be such reasons. Those are not valid reasons. They might be the actual reasons. I'm trying to be honest here,
Yes.
but those are not considered to be valid reasons. So you can say stuff like, let's say, what bank, for example, let's say you work in South Indian Bank. I'm just saying, for example.
Mhm.
Now, when you work in South Indian Bank, you would have handled. Now these days, everything is software. So you would have worked closely with software a lot. So everything now is managed by systems. So when you were working closely with software, you were intrigued by the technical aspects. So you can ask like, how this website was developed, what technologies this website was developed in. And now if you see banking software, for example, I'm just saying banking software is managed mainly by two companies. One is Infosys, one is TCS. Now Infosys banking software name is Finacle. South Indian Bank, I'm just saying for example, South Indian Bank is a bank which actually uses the Finacle software. Now, banks like State Bank of India, then Indian Bank, and all these banks, they actually use the software of TCS. Now, you can say that everything is now related to software. This created an interest in me to learn more about the software, more about how this technology actually work, and I wanted to move to that field. So that is the reason I started learning about it. On upon learning on like learning the aspects of the technical aspects of these banks, it created an interest in me, and that is the reason I wanted to switch my field. You can say something like that. What created that interest? Why you are intrigued? You can say that. That will give the HR that okay, this person has done the research. This person is not switching fields just for the sake of switching or just for the package perspective. Or sometimes it can be growth also. Like compared to a banker, the career growth for an let's say technical person, you can be more intrigued by that. Like in a bank, what you can start with clerical portion, then you'll become a probationary officer, then you'll become a manager, then you'll become a regional manager. This kind of growth. But in a let's say technical environment, you will be a software developer, then you can get into a senior software developer, then you will become a tech lead, then you can become a tech arc, you can become a project manager. So you can say that I'm more intrigued by this growth where I can actually use my technical skills. So that is the reason that I wanted to, switch to technical technical field. Now they can ask you questions like, okay, initially did not know this, then why did you go and join bank? So you took so much time to come to this conclusion that you are interested in technical field. Why didn't you know this before? You can ask. They can ask you questions like this. Now this is what I meant by trick questions. Now this is kind of like they're trying to corner you. So you can say stuff like, no, initially when I started working in bank, I was not aware about the technical importance. You can say something like that. Like I was not aware about how important the technical aspects is, how important technology is in banks. I did not understand that. So later, when with my experience, I got to learn about the importance of technology in today's scenario. We be it any field, whether it's banking field or whether it is, let's say, any field, be it any field. So the importance of technology today is very high. Even a lift manufacturing company like Schneider Electricals, they use software, they use electrical hardware, they use mechanical components to create the lift. So technology is become a part of everything. So with my experience, it took a bit time for me to understand the importance of the technologies used in today's world. So you can say something like that. So I'm not the HR is also not expecting you to give
the perfect answer, the correct answer. No, whether you're clear with the answer that you give or not, irrespective of what answer you give. So that is what the HR will expect. They won't be like, okay, this is the correct answer. This is what I expect the candidate to say. This is what I expect him to say. No, you can say your own answer, but are you saying that answer with good conviction? Are you confident with your answer? That is more important. All right.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
Anybody else? Any other questions, guys? Anyone else? If there's no question, then we'll move on to resume building. Shall we move on to resume building?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, Ashmi. Yes. So again, I have. Okay, I have the PowerPoint for that as well. Let me get that. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, yes. Yes. Okay. So now we'll see resume building. We were seeing interview all this time. Now resume building. Now resume building, you have to understand the purpose of resumes. Now resume will be an important aspect in placements because even before you attend interviews, resume will be the first round of shortlisting you for the interview or whatever the process is. The first step will be you will submit your resume. That is where it starts. So usually your resume building, that will be the first round. So you have to create a resume. When I say resume, you need to understand that resume is going to be your index. It is going to have things about you and what you did all these years. So you have to have a good clarity on resume because the resume is going to speak about yourself. If you don't know about yourself, who else is going to know about yourself? So that is more important. So you need to understand what is the purpose of resume. So that is like you're kind of giving them an overview about yourself, which will help them shortlist you for the next round, whether it's aptitude or group discussion or interview or whatever it is. But to start with resume, you need to understand the difference. Biodata, resume, and curriculum vitae. Now, what is the difference between these three things? Biodata is personal, anything that is related to your personal aspect, your personal details. That is your biodata, like your date of birth, where are you from, all these things will be your biodata. Okay. Curriculum vitae and resume are similar. They both are applied for jobs only, with a minute difference. Okay. Curriculum vitae will have all the details. Of course, it will have your personal details, then your academic details, your research or whatever projects or whatever it is, projects, your co-curricular, extracurricular, all these things will be there in curriculum vitae. Now, curriculum vitae is a generalized version of your resume. Okay, resume is more specific. Resume is more specific to a job. Now, let's say, for example, you're applying for a software developer job.
If you're applying for a software developer job, you will have a general curriculum vitae which will have all these details, and you need to be bit more specific related to this software developer job when it comes to the resume. So what does a software developer need? Software developer, they don't need to know the project if the project is not related to anything related to software. Let's say if I'm an electrical engineering graduate, my final year electrical engineering project was load sharing system. That is a different, it's an electrical concept. Now I don't have to mention this project in my resume if I'm applying for software developer job. So software developer job needs more software related stuff. So I'm going to mention software related stuff in these aspects, which will help me to apply for this particular role. Academic details, yes, of course, it'll help because that is your uh, qualification. So that is your qualification. I need to finish an engineering. I need to do an engineering degree with 70 percentage. So that is my qualification to apply for software. So I will add this research. If I have any research work that is not related to software, I don't have to add it. Project also, I don't have to add it. But let's say that I did a mini project in my bachelor degree, which involved a software. It can be any software. Let's say there is an electrical software called MATLAB. I use that software. No, I can mention that project in my resume because that is the software. So as an electrical engineer, I am capable of handling software and working with software. So it is possible for me. So you can mention that. So the only difference between resume and curriculum vitae is a generalized version, and resume is more specific or it's tailor made for jobs. So you can have one curriculum vitae, you can apply it. If you're a fresher, you can use your curriculum vitae, especially if you're in your final years and all, you can use your curriculum vitae. But resume, you need to have more than one resume depending on what is the job that you're applying. More than one resume. For example, if you are applying for a software job, you need to have a resume which caters more to the software aspect. If you're applying for a banking exam, like one of your friends just told, so you need to have a like a resume which will actually help them to select you for the banking job. So you need to have more than one resume depending on the job. Never use a single resume for all the jobs. Your resume will depend on your what to say, the job description. So when you're applying for a job, always read the job description first and then the requirements. So when you're making a resume, two things: requirement, job description, which is JD, job description. These two things are important. And third one is fitting your profile, fit your profile according to fit your profile according to these two, according to requirement and JD. That is all you need to do in resume. So you will have many resumes. Now I told you I am a software person. So I did my masters also in IT. So right now I'm working as a software consultant in a company based out of like some country. I'm based out of Melbourne. So what happens is I have a resume which will cater to a Java development job. Now I have another resume which will cater to the role of a technical lead, team lead. So in the team lead, yes, I need to have technical knowledge, but more than that, I need to also show my leadership skills. Because if I give just my technical skills, that is not going to help with the lead part. It might be helping with the technology part, but it will not help me with the lead part. So if the role is for technical lead, I need to explain my technical aspects as well, and I need to showcase my leadership skills as well, where I was a good leader. So I need to mention that as well. So technical lead. That is why I told you resume needs to be modified on a regular basis. You need to keep working on your resume. You cannot use a single resume for all the jobs.
So you need to understand the difference between biodata, resume, and curriculum vitae. Curriculum vitae, irrespective of whatever the job is, it will have all the details, like for your project, your co-curricular, extracurricular, everything. Resume is more tailor-made for the job. That is your difference. Now formats. Resume formats. We have four formats: text-rich formats, infographic formats, video resume, and ATS friendly. Now, what are these things? Now you know what is a video resume. Video resume is you make a video instead of writing everything. You make a video where you actually tell them what you did all these years. You will say all those things. Okay. Now, text rich. Let's start with this one. Video resume is you make a video. This I'm not going to explain much. Okay. This is like kind of like a interview, video interview, but instead of having a conversation, you will be recording a video and then you will be sending it. So you have to have a format. So what are all the information that is being required when it comes to your resume? So that we'll see, but before that we'll see what are all the different formats. Text-rich format. Text-rich format is the format that we are using now. Like you have a paper where you actually mention your name, contact number, then you'll have your academic qualifications. You'll mention all, you write all these things. That is text-rich. Text-rich format is all these things. You will mention your projects, whatever it is required for the job. Excuse me. Required for the job, you will mention all those things. Okay, so infographic. Now, as the name says, it's infographic. So you kind of create an animation or you kind of uh, create some diagrams or some charts or some icons or something. That is your infographic. So of course, it's an extension of text-rich formats, but there will be a lot of graphical representation which will be involved. That is your infographic. Now, the problem with this infographic is this infographic will not be, or not all infographics will not be assessed by ATS. Now you need to understand what is ATS. ATS is applicant tracking system. That is basically a software. So these days, the HRs what they do is you have plenty of resumes. You have plenty of people who are applying for resumes. So the HRs are not able to view all the resumes. So what they'll do is they'll put it in a software. Now ATS is one of the software. These days people are doing it with AI also. They are just putting the resume to an AI. So it's a software. Basically, instead of a person selecting you, it will be a software who's doing that work for the person. So in this way, they can just shortlist many people in a short span of time. So the work of the HR will be reduced. That is the whole idea behind this. So this infographic resume sometimes will not be assessed by ATS. ATS, it will not be like, it will not recognize. Let's say, for example, you have like this. So let's say a simple thing I'll say. Instead of contact details, instead of writing his contact detail, you'll put a symbol of a phone, like a mobile phone symbol, you'll put like this, let's say, and you'll write your number. Now, not all the ATS, the systems will be tracking this and will be recognizing this as a mobile number. So what happens is the systems which are failing to acknowledge this as mobile will miss out on your contact detail. So they will not be getting your contact details. So infographic is more specific. You don't have to follow this as a general rule. Infographic and video resume, both you can do it only if the companies actually ask. Now you can ask me, sir, where will this infographic resumes be useful? I will tell you one. You have graphic designers. This kind of job, any designer jobs, any job which requires a lot of creativity, there they will expect you to make this infographic resumes where you actually use your graphic skills, your photoshopping skills or whatever skill is there, you will be using your infographic resume.
Similarly, where they expect you to speak a lot, like for example, let's say you're applying for a BA role, BA is business analyst, or you're applying for a BD role. So these kind of roles, you have to speak, interact a lot with the stakeholders. You have to interact a lot with the clients and all those things. So there, they'll expect you to see a video resume, because a video resume, you're making a video where you're actually explaining about yourself. So there, they can actually see how good you are in communication, how confident you are while you're speaking about yourself, and they will also get to know the information about you. So they are able to access all these things. That's why they are going for video resume. But most commonly, text-rich resume is what they will follow. But we need to make a text-rich resume which is also ATS friendly, because these days lot of HRs or most of the HRs are doing this. Now, what is ATS friendly? ATS friendly is it has to be acknowledged and it has to be assessed by the software. So if you put your resume in software and they ask you whether you're fit for the job, the software should be able to give an answer whether yes or no. Now, this what happens sometimes, even when you're actually eligible for the job, when you're actually suitable for the job, sometimes the software will not recognize you as a eligible candidate. That is because you do not make an ATS friendly software. When I say ATS friendly software, you need to mention the keywords that are important for the job. So how will you identify the keywords? By looking at the JD, job description. So ATS friendly resume, you need to include the words that are mentioned in the job description, and you need to add that to your resume, to your profile, so that those are the words which will be recognized by the software while selecting you. So you need to understand that. So text rich and ATS friendly are the most commonly used formats now. Okay. So let's see that. What are the format? What is the format that we need to follow? First thing, what are all the headings that you can actually include in a resume? So let's say now this is for a fresher. Okay, these details are for a fresher. We'll see separately if it is not a fresher. Now first let's start with identity block. Identity block is, let's say you have the paper here. Identity block is who you are. So which you will mention here, your name, your contact details. When I say contact details, your mobile and your email. These two are very important, because all the communication will happen through mobile and email only. Don't mention your address, not required. Address not required. No need. Okay. So name, contact, mobile, and email, those things will come in the identity block. Then comes your personal profile or your career objective. This is not mandatory. Okay. This, like, most likely what will be your career objective? You'll anybody you go, I've also seen thousands of resumes. So people will most likely copy from internet and they'll paste it. What they'll do, to work in an competitive environment where I can work for the betterment of the company and I can also improve my skills. This is how the career objective most likely will be, to use my skills effectively and to grow along with the company, like this. Now, this career objective is not actually mandatory. Personal profile also not mandatory. Okay? But if you want to add it as a fresher, if you want to add it, you can add probably an objective if you want, not mandatory, but I'm not saying it's uh, like it's useless or something. But the point is, it's not mandatory. If you want to add, you can add. I wouldn't say personal profile. Personal profile is also not needed. Maybe career objective, if you want, you can add. But if you're adding it, make sure you know what your objective is. For example, if you say that to work in a company, whatever, blah, 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 you put it. If the HR asks you what your objective is, you need to be able to say, because this is your resume. So you need to be able to answer everything that is asked in this resume. Even if I ask any small thing, that also you should be able to answer, like objective and all those things. You need to be able to answer it. So if you're adding objective, make sure you know the objective. Then comes your academic qualifications. Academic qualifications, order should be master degree,
then bachelor degree, then your, if you have master degree and bachelor degree, these two you can add, then your 12th or your diploma if you have a diploma. 3 is more than enough. Okay, actually 2 is enough, but if you have 3, you can add 3. But ideal 2 would be enough because you need to fill the page with more relevant quantity. So nobody is gonna do anything knowing your 10th uh, school graduate. Maybe marks they might be useful, but that's not needed. So 2 to 3. 2 is ideal. 3 if you want to push it, like let's say 12th you scored 90%, 95%, you can add that. If you think that's gonna add value, you can add it. After that, it's going to be trainings and certifications. Trainings and certifications. Trainings and certification will be related to the job. If you have any training and certification that is related to the job, you have to apply. I mean, you have to add it to the resume. That is more important. Now, before we started with all these things, what do you think is the number of pages that you need to have for a resume? Anyone? How many pages should you have for a resume?
Maximum 2 pages.
Yeah, maximum 2, correct. So that 2 page is the maximum amount. It's not like a standard number. So maximum it can be 2 pages. If you have really good content, it can go for 2 pages. Otherwise, fit it in 1 page. Okay, so 1 page should be okay. But if you have content, 1 to 2 pages it can go to. So if you don't have content, try to fit everything in 1 page only. That's why I'm telling when you're not having much things, trainings and certifications when it comes to your own job that you're applying for, you can avoid it. So this is related to the job. Certifications. When you mention certification, you have to mention the certificate name, which institute you did the certificate. That is this both is enough. Don't have to mention the year or anything. Certificate and institute. Training also same thing. What is the training program name? Training program name and the institute which provided the training program. Okay, these two. Trainings and certifications. This should be related to your job, not like whatever you did that is not helpful for your job. This has to be related to your job. Understand that. Then you have area of interest. Area of interest is again should be related to your job. If you're applying for a software job, it should be a software area. Let's say web development or artificial intelligence or data visualization, data mining. Can be anything. So, for example, what is data mining or data visualization? What is it? If you're mentioning that as an area of interest, you need to know what is data mining, what is data visualization. A simple example is uh, we all use this shopping software like online shopping we do Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra, we do all these things. Now if you notice sometimes when you are searching something in the app, let's say Amazon, you're searching for a mobile, but you don't buy it. You just search, you do the browsing, you see all the mobiles for some time, and then you close the app and you go. The next day when you open, that app will show all the details related to mobiles. It'll show different mobiles from different companies. They'll show tempered glass, they'll show mobile cases, they'll show headphones and all those things. Now what happened here? Previous day you just search for mobiles. So what happens is it follows the concept of data visualization, data mining, where they actually collect the pattern of your search, your data, they collect that and they create an algorithm, which that algorithm will generate a result which will make you buy that product. So this is actually created or this is actually used by this software website to make you purchase more stuff. It's an algorithm. This happens even in social media also. So let's say you go to Google and you browse something. Let's say you want to buy some product. And later that day when you go to Instagram or if you use any other Twitter or Twitter is now X, if you use X or Facebook or whatever it is, that product's ad will be shown in that particular
social media. That is called digital marketing. Okay, so that is again the concept of data visualization. Now, this could be an area of interest for you. I'm just saying, for example, if this is an area of interest which is related to software, so yes, you can mention this as an area of interest when it comes to software jobs. Now, let's say if it's a hardware, like if it's some other technical job, if it's a mechanical job, or if it's an electrical job or something, you work as an electrical engineer or you work as a mechanical engineer. You can mention IC engines, or you can mention how this electric cars as one of the area of interest. So that is how you write your area of interest. It should be related to the job that you're applying for. Internships, irrespective of whatever it is, you can write all the internships that you applied, because internship is kind of like an experience. So you might not have attended an internship which is related to your job, but you got some experience out of it. That experience would help you in the job. Let's say you worked in a team. So it taught you how to work in a team. So that will also help you irrespective of whatever field you're working in. So this internship is giving you some experience to learn something. So you can mention internships. Projects, again, it will be helpful if it is project related to job. If it is related to job, it will be more helpful. If it doesn't, if it is not related to job, if you're adding it, make sure that that is your, um, it's a value add. It's a good project. It's a really good project, interesting project. It should be, which can be related to your curriculum or anything. Okay, so first priority is if the project is related to job, mention it. If it is not related to job, if it is a really good project, then you can mention it, where you actually used your skill, where you actually learned a lot, where it was actually useful somewhere. For example, these days what they're doing is they're doing this audio info system for people who are visually impaired. Like this Google Maps is there, no? So Google Maps, people who can't see, how will they use Google Maps? For that, they create an audio accessibility option where it will actually say. That's why you have this in feature in Google Maps, right? It will say take left after 400 meters. That is actually initially created for visually impaired people. So let's say you worked in such a project. That's a very useful project. So it can add value, irrespective of whether it is related to your job or not. It can add a value. So you can mention to that. Then comes your achievements. Now, achievements, you need to categorize. You need to mention, or you need to recognize what are your achievements, what you see as achievements. Now, whatever you see as achievement, you can add it. But as I already told you, it should add value. For example, let's say that um, you won in a quiz competition in your school days. You won first prize in a quiz competition. Can you mention that as an achievement? Yes, you can. Because it's a quiz competition. Not everybody is good at quizzes. Not everybody is good at. So to be good at quizzes, you need to have presence of mind. You need to have good knowledge about something. It can be related to general knowledge. So it says something good about you. So you can mention like that. If it is any sports activities, if it's any cultural activities, you can mention that. And then comes your co-curricular, extracurricular activities. You can mention that. What do you mean by co-curricular? Co-curricular will be your papers that you presented, paper presentation, project presentation, anything related to your academics. That is co-curricular activities. Extracurricular is your sports activities, your cultural activities. That is your extracurricular activities. So you can mention that also in your resume. That's why if you really feel these can add value, you can add it and you can make it to 2 pages. So that is what we have here. See co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities. Positions of responsibility. So positions of responsibility is where you actually showcase your skill set. Let's say you are responsible for let's say you had in your college you had a fest, tech fest or cultural fest or something. So you are responsible for stage decoration. You are the head of the stage decoration committee. You can mention that. You are head of the registration committee. You can mention that. Where you actually had some responsibility that you had to do That you can mention it in positions of responsibility. But you will not mention it as positions of responsibility. You can mention as roles and responsibilities or something like that. Roles and responsibilities. And then you can mention this. For example, I told you, right, I was a joint secretary of a club in my pre-final year. And I became the secretary of the same club in my final year. So we had to conduct a lot of events and activities. I was in charge of conducting those activities. When I said in charge, it starts with planning for the activity, deciding the budget, timeline, dates, everything. So I was responsible for that. Of course, I had teams, so I have to manage teams who are actually doing the work. So that is a responsibility. You can mention that. Volunteering experience. This you can actually mention. This is all the things that is outside your academics, which will add value to your profile. So you were a volunteer in, let's say, Red Ribbon societies. You can mention that. You were a volunteer in IEEE society. You can mention that. You were a volunteer in any of the social awareness clubs, any blood banks. All these things you can actually. That kind of shows like you are not just what you are when it comes to your academics. You are something more than that. That you can actually say in your volunteering experience. Personal traits. Personal traits is again your personal skills. You can say communication, then you can say leadership, team player. All these things are your personal qualities. Don't say hardworking. Don't say all those things. Hardworking and all is no longer a personal trait. It's a basic trait. Everybody should work hard in your job. Okay, and that is not a like a big quality. It's a basic quality. Honest, hardworking, all those things don't mention in personal traits. Should be extra. You can mention these things: leader, team player, creative. You can say because not every job requires creativity. So if you mention creativity, you can mention that. Observation skills, you can mention that. Or you have good analytical skills, you can mention that. That is your personal traits. You mention all those things. This is your non-technical skills that you can mention. Co-curricular, as I already told you, anything related to your academics, papers, projects, extracurricular, sports and arts, hobbies and interests. Hobbies and interests, I already told you. So what you do in your free time. So you can mention anything gardening or painting, reading books. I will tell you what, like personally, in my resume, I added three hobbies: gardening, ornamental fish breeding, and short film making. Because as part of that club that I was in, like the joint secretary of the club, we had to create awareness uh, using short films. So that was the club was a renewable energy club. Renewable energy club is basically an electrical. It's a renewable energy is your solar energy, wind energy. All these things are renewable energy. So we need to create awareness among people to not waste electricity. Like daytime, you can avoid using lights, and even when you're using lights in your home, you can use LED lights instead of CFL lights. That will save electricity. Your electricity bill will reduce. And if you go for solar energy, abundant in initial cost aside. So we had to make a lot of short films related to that. So short film making was kind of like, since I was interested in that, I involved myself in that. So it was kind of like my hobby as well, which also helped in my positions of responsibility. So you can mention that. So hobbies, you need to know painting, watching documentary is good. Documentaries, then music, playing any instrument. You can say sports can be a hobby. You can mention that. Some people actually do reviews, vlogs, and all. You can mention that vlogs, reviews of food reviews people do, or restaurant reviews people do, or product reviews. These days, that has become a big deal. People do product reviews. They buy different products and they review that product. So you can mention all those things. That's all come. It will all come under vlogging, or you can mention that in your hobbies and interests. Okay. So these are the things that you can actually add in your resume. Okay. Now the mistakes. So grammar mistake, spelling mistake, typos. First thing, avoid this, irrespective of whatever it is. Avoid this. Don't have grammar mistakes, don't have spelling mistakes, typos. So once you made your resume, check whether there is any grammar mistake, whether there is any spelling mistake, typos, check it. So that's why it's always better to use uh, text-rich software like Word or Notepad. Notepad, not really. You can use Canva you can use, Word you can use. It can be anything. So avoid these things. Not tailor-made or unfit to apply. This one is what I told you about JD. Look at your job description and make your resume fit for that job description. That is what it means by tailor-made. So if it is not tailor-made, that means you did not follow the job description. You can't say that something that is not relevant to the job at all. That is not going to help you. So not tailor-made, unfit to apply. That you have to make sure that you need to follow the job description and format like um, add content related to JD. Formatting issues, bad format. Now I'll tell you the standard font that you can use is Times New Roman. The most standard format, Times New Roman. For the font size, you can use 11. 11 is good. If you have good content, you can make 10 also as the size. Size, I'm saying. Font size. 11. 10 will be a little smaller, but 10 is also accepted. Then heading font size. Heading font size will be one size more than your font size. If it is to 11, it's 12. If it is 10, it's 11. Okay. So formatting issues. For this, you have plenty of sample formats that you get. Take a sample format that you can get in an internet. Use that sample format, which will help you avoid these formatting issues. Okay. So the usual format that people follow is you have the personal detail here, you have your personal skills here, other details are here. So this format is good. Personal skill set will be here, other details will be here. This is a good format. But if you want, you can create a two-column format. Two-column format will be like this. You'll have a name here and you'll have two columns here. You'll split into two. This is not a two-column. This is a two-column. You can follow that. There are multiple formats. Choose one. I'll maybe give you some sample formats by the end of the session so that it will help you. Congested, clumsy, too long, too short. These are all basic things, guys. Don't add too much data. If you really have more data, you can extend it to the second page. Don't make it too congested or too messed up so that the HR is not able to read it clearly. Quantify results and achievements. So what do you mean by quantify results and achievements? This is when I say quantify 100% efficiency in your project. That is what I mean by quantify. So if you have any results that you actually was able to implement a project successfully, you can say that 100% success on implementing this project. You mention like that, it will be more catchy. Even achievements, first place, second place. Don't just say I won in an event. Don't say won which place in an event. If you have not won, you've participated. Mention that. That is what you mean by quantify. So you need to be specific in that. Achievements also. If you won first place, first place. If you won second place, second place. If you won third place, mention that. And unprofessional, invalid, missing contact info. So unprofessional means anything that is not
needed for the job is considered to be unprofessional. Okay. So don't add any unprofessional words. So if you follow this format, it will be fine. If you follow this heading, you will not need any, or you will not use any unprofessional words. So that is fine. Missing contact info. Don't do this. Don't do this mistake. Contact info is very important because that is how they'll contact you. If you miss your email ID, you will not get your offer letter. If you miss your contact number, the HR will not be able to call you because these days most of the communication happens either through mobile or either through emails. They will schedule an interview only through emails or through calls. So miss contact info is very important. And email. I want to talk about email. So a lot of people make this mistake of creating a very informal email ID. So understand this thing. Your email ID should be professional. When I say professional, don't words could well use words like I am so and so, I am satya.com, I am satya at gmail.com. Don't say this. That is not a professional email ID. Professional email ID can have your name or your initials. So for my professional email ID is mvsatya107. So this MV is my initials, Satya is my name, 107 is kind of my date of birth. So this is kind of like considered to be professional email. Having name, initials, numbers, okay. Avoid symbols. When I say symbols, percentage, dot is why I'm saying avoid dot is there is a reason. Let's say my email ID I create a satya.107. Let's say I create like this. Okay. If you when you mention your email ID in your resume, it will be hyperlinked. So when you hyperlink, there's a good chance that this dot will get covered. So they will not know what this symbol is, whether it's a dot or whether it's an underscore or what it is. So avoid dots, avoid comma, underscore, percentage, or any symbols, ampersand and all avoid in emails. So try to create a professional email ID and make sure you add that email ID and mobile number in your contact list. Mobile number add with country code. Country code, our country code is +91. So +91 and then your number. Okay, add that. Missing keywords. Keywords is the words which are mentioned in your JD. So don't miss those keywords. Buzzwords, buzzwords we won't usually use. We are that sensible that not to use buzzwords. So it's fine. I'm not going to discuss much about it. So these are the common mistakes. So avoid all these mistakes. Then you have a sample. So this is different resume sample, guys. We'll discuss that. Now don't worry. I will share this slides with you guys so that you can have a look at it. So there will be uh, a common group who will be there. So I'll share it with you guys. You can uh, have a look at it. Now this is one of the sample resume. So this is not the only thing. This is one of the things. Okay. So we already discussed when we were discussing about the headings. I told you this is for a fresher, right? If you are an experienced person, you need to mention your work experience also. That is very important. Okay. So qualifications, education, experience, achievements. This is a standard thing. Actually, this order is not exactly correct. So after your name, your experience should come first. Okay, maybe qualifications. Qualifications, then your experience, then your education. Then you can give your technical skills, so soft skills and all that thing. Experience should come before education. If you have experience, that should come before your education. It should always be in descending order. Whatever you did last, that should be the order. So if you did, let's say, um, you worked in a company for 2 years, that should come first. Then your college, then your school. Like that should be the order. So it should be in the descending order. So this is a sample format where you can actually do. Now this address is not needed, guys. This address, no need. Maybe you can mention the place just as a name. Let's say you're coming from Ernakulam. You can just mention as Ernakulam. Don't have to mention your full address. Not needed. Okay. But email ID, contact number is important. Okay. So all these things. This is another sample format that you have. I told you, right? This is not two columns. This is like you have all these personal details and everything on this one side, and this has your resume summary, your professional experience, and all those things. This is another sample format. The name size is increased. Okay. And here, if you notice here, they've mentioned LinkedIn profile also. So like that, if you have any blogs, or if you have your LinkedIn profile, mention that link. If you have any other um, your professional social media profile, if you have anything, you can mention that. Like LinkedIn, if you have anything else. Okay, if you have any GitHub, you can mention that also. Where you actually do your technical work, you can mention that detail also here. And this is another format. Okay, so like this, the two column format will be like this. It will be here. It will be split here. The one column will be here. One column will be here. So you can mention that also. Okay, so that is it when it comes to your resume. Now I can show you more sample formats of resume. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Let me just
Sir, mute ആണ്.
Oh, sorry guys. So I was on mute. So let me explain this again. I'm so sorry. Yes. Okay. So sorry guys. Let me explain this again. Since I was on mute, I'll explain it again. So this is my resume, which I use to apply for IT related jobs. So you can see here my name, contact number, email ID, then LinkedIn profile, then in the place where I'm from. I mean, where I'm working right now, my work rights. Now it is important to mention your work rights if you're working in a foreign country. So I work in Melbourne and I'm not an Australian citizen. So I need to mention the visa that I have, which is this visa, temporary graduate visa, subclass 485. And then since it's an IT profile, I need to mention my IT experience, IT professional with over 6 years of combined experience in software development and business analytics, Java, Python, JavaScript. I worked. Then 3.5 years of experience in IT as a software developer. So my total experience is almost 9.5 years. So I need to mention that here. So this is what profile means. If you don't have this, you would have had an objective. As a fresher, you would have had objective. Now comes to skills. Java, Python, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, jQuery, Flash, Django, Spring, Hibernate, all these things. Then tools I use, Jira, Confluence. These are all the things that I use in my work. Database, domains, development practice, core competency. Then my educational qualifications. Then my master degree in Charles Sturt University, Brisbane, Australia. I did my masters in Australia, so I mentioned that. Year not required because since you have so many other things, it's not required. But if you don't have experience, it's important to mention your work, which year you completed it. Okay, that is important. Then Bachelor of Engineering, in which country? Then my work experience, I have just explained it. So descending order. So this is my software consultant work. I'm working as a software consultant in Melbourne. Then my Infosys experience, my pragmatics experience. This is my first job, which I worked as an internship. In which year it is? So you mention all these things. All right. So this is for an IT job. Now let's say I want to work as a trainer because you can see, right? I'm an IT professional, but I also do training. So if I'm working as a trainer, I have to mention my training experience. 4 years of experience as a senior placement aptitude and soft skill trainer with proven record. So you mentioned that. So this is what you need to do in your pragmatics. I'm working as a senior trainer in pragmatics. So you mentioned that. So this is what I mean to say tailor made. So you need to keep changing your uh, resume according to the job that you're applying for. I mentioned here senior trainer, and I mentioned my place that I'm from also. So that is how you modify the resume. So this is also a standard format. All right. Other than that, you guys need to understand that resumes have to keep changing. So that is pretty much it when it comes to resume. Now, few mistakes that people do when it comes to resume is they are not able to differentiate what is important and what is not important. Like that depends on two things. First thing, the job that you're applying for. If you feel something that you're going to add is even going to add a small bit of value to your job, to your profile, you can add it. Like your hobbies that I keep talking about. Now I can explain my hobby. I can explain my hobby and make it as a valuable asset to my profile. I told you already, right? So let's say ornamental fish breeding is a hobby. How many people would have ornamental fish breeding as a hobby? Like probably one or two people in like 10, 20 people, probably one or two people will have that as an hobby. So it gives me a chance to make the HR remember me to make my profile a valuable profile. So that I can add, because most of the time people will be like playing cricket, playing football, playing badminton, reading books, listening to music. That is the thing. I'm not saying that those hobbies are not good. Makes sense if you can explain it in a better way, but it doesn't have the impact that ornamental fish feeding has in the profile, in the resume. Now, believe me, in my Infosys interview, I spoke almost like 4 to 5 minutes about ornamental fish feeding with the HR, because the HR was curious. That HR did not know what ornamental fish feeding is. I explained what ornamental fish feeding is, what I did, what made me interested in that, what I used to do. Now I have this habit of visiting this aquarium or any fish festivals whenever I find anything in town, I used to go there. And as you see, I did my um, master degree in Australia. So Australia is a country which has a good, sea life. So they have very good aquariums which actually showcase this aquatic life and wildlife. I have visited Great Barrier Reef, which made me more curious about um, this sea life and aquatic life. So I explained all these things, which created that interest in me to pursue this particular hobby. So that was actually trying to show that I am curious about something, and when I'm curious about something, I try to put in all my effort in it to know about it as much as I can. And obviously, it helps me, relax myself, keeps me sane, irrespective of whatever my stressful work environment is. It helps me to be calm and composed and be relieved of my stress. So those are the aspects. So that is why I added that. So like that, you need to add things which you feel will add value. You need to differentiate it. What will add value to your profile and what will not. So that is where you need to be a bit smart. So before you start making your resume, list down the points, write down everything about you in a paper or just type it out separately before making your resume. Like what can I say about myself? Not in a resume, in general. What are the things that I know about myself that I can actually say? Mention that. Everything, even if you've won a small competition in your school, in your sixth grade, you won a competition. Mention that also. List out that also. Start with that. Okay. Write down all the things that you can mention about yourself. Then filter it out. Then what you do is you can like filter. Okay, this I can add. This I can add. This, okay, it's not very important, so I can skip this. The next point I can add this. So like that, if you mention everything, that will give you an idea. And then if you filter it out, it will be easier for you to make an effective resume. Right? So that, be aware of that particular aspect. Okay. And one more thing I wanted to tell you, this declaration part. Now you noticed that in my headings, I don't have declaration, I don't have references also. So both these are not required. What is declaration? You will write, I hereby declare that all the information that I've given is true to the best of my knowledge. No, not needed. In a resume, that is not needed. Don't mention your resume. Don't mention that in your resume, your declaration, because it's a waste of space. In that space, I can add something that will add value to my profile. I can add about my achievements. I can add a couple of my achievements. I can add a couple of my personal skills. I can add. I can add my technical skills. So declaration is of no use. It's not adding any value to your profile or your resume at all. So don't add it. Second thing is references. Not needed. Nobody is gonna call you or your references and check. If you mention your ex project manager as your reference, nobody is gonna call your. Nobody has a time also. Instead, they will do background verification. They have their own set of doing their background verification, whether you actually worked in Infosys or not, whether you actually studied in that particular college or not. That they will do. Now, for example, I told you about my work. Now, right now, I'm working in Melbourne. So I have visa. So when I mention my visa details, they will go and they will check in the background database, the visa database, whether there is a person
with this particular name, who has a visa, but that is valid till this particular, they will check that. That background verification they will do. But nobody will call your references and they will check. That will not happen. So that is not needed at all. So you don't have to mention your declaration and references. But these headings are important. Identity block, you have career objective or your personal profile. Then you have your qualifications, trainings, certifications, area of interest, internships, projects, achievements, positions of responsibility, volunteering experience, personal trait, co-curricular, extracurricular, hobbies and interests. This will be enough. And don't have to add your date of birth. Date of birth not needed. Your religion, blah blah blah, all those things. Some people, I've seen this. I'm mentioning it here because I've seen this. They've mentioned their religion. I've even seen people mentioning their blood group and all. Not needed, man. Waste of time. Waste of space in the resume. Okay, so don't mention all these things. Personal details like that, no need. The maximum extent that you can go with respect to your personal detail is your name, your parents' name not needed, your name, your contact number, your mobile number, contact number, email ID, and maybe the place where you're from, not your address, just the place. That place also adds a value. What value does it add? The value is it will help the HR or the company to understand where to place you, where to position you. Let's say you're from Kerala. You have been from Kerala, you've been living in Kerala, so you understand the demographics and you understand the mindset of the people from Kerala. So that could be understood. Or if you're from Ernakulam, you understand people from that region. So you working in that particular region will be helpful, especially if you're working in any business roles and all. It will be helpful because you need to understand the demographics. You need to understand the mindset of the people. They will check that. And also sometimes they will do the reverse psychology also. They'll place you in a place which is totally out of your comfort zone to see whether you can actually work or not. So let's say you're from Kerala, they will not place you in Kerala. They can do that also. Let's say IT companies and all. I told you I'm basically from, you saw my resume, I'm basically from Coimbatore. When I got placed in Infosys, they placed me in Mysore, which is in Karnataka. Coimbatore is in Tamil Nadu. So when they placed me in Mysore, I did not know about the place. So it was a completely new uh, place for me, new situation, new scenario for me. So I had to go there. I had to pick myself up. I had to move out of a comfort zone. They are purposely doing that to see whether you can actually work at any situation, at any scenario, at any place, even if it is out of your comfort zone. Are you able to work? I have seen people who are not able to get adapted to this particular situation and they had to quit the job. I have seen people like that. Why are they doing this? Because when you continue working in the company after 4 or 5 years, they might send you on site. They might send you to the client's location to a foreign country or to a different place, whether you will be able to work there or not. So they're preparing you for that right from your fresher stage by placing you in a different locality. So that is the significance of adding your place in resume. So these are the aspects that you need to keep in mind while making a resume. So plenty of formats are there in internet. You can search. So you can use either of those formats that we discussed actually. So you can use this single column format, or you can go follow the 2 column format. But this 2 column format, this particular format is actually good. This particular format, this gives a more professional look. So I would recommend this one. You see, my resume also follows the same structure. If you had noticed, okay, that is my resume. Yeah, follows a similar structure to what we saw here, right? That's exactly what it is. Now this can be either way. So this part can be here also. It depends, but this 2 column format always helps. All right. So that should be it, guys, from the resume perspective. Now let's have some questions. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me.
Anything related to resume or any questions, guys? Any question related to resume or anything, guys? Okay, I have some chat window. Okay, sorry. I did not see that. You guys have texted me saying that I'm on mute. I did not see that. Sorry, guys. I sometimes get carried away. So it happens. Any questions, guys? Any questions related to interviews or resumes or anything? Now, I already told you, please do ask if you have any questions. Anything, guys? I'll give you maybe a minute or two to jot down your questions. So please do ask me if you have any questions. Anyone? Okay, so Prabhat, how do you answer? Why are you leaving this job and joining us? Okay, this is kind of like a trick question. Okay, so you can either answer it. You can answer it in two ways. So one is you can answer it in terms of the growth perspective. You can say that I want to grow. I want to work on my growth. So I feel like what I have learned in this job, I have made the best use out of whatever I could learn from this job. Now I want to move to a different space where I can actually learn something new, where I can actually grow, where I can work on my growth, where I'm actually facing new challenges. So I have become comfortable in this job. Now I want to come out of my comfort zone and go to a different place and apply the experience that I already have in this company in a new environment. So only when you step out of your comfort zone, you tend to learn new things and you tend to improve yourself and you tend to grow. So you can say this as an answer. This is one reason that I want to leave the company and join a new company. And when I did my research, I found your company to be one of the good companies, which is why I wanted to apply. And my skill set aligns the best with your company. You can say something like that. So from the growth perspective, you can say that. Like you want to grow, that is why you want to move to a different company. That is one way of putting the answer. The other way you can answer this question is challenges. Now you can say that for 3 or 4 years you worked in a company, you had a number of challenges, you faced all those challenges. Now you want a different set of challenge. You want to move to an environment where you actually face a new set of challenges. You want to talk to new people. You can put it that way that you want to face new challenges. You want to face a new environment. You can put that way. So growth wise or challenge wise, you can put it in both ways. Now the honest answer would have been the salary perspective, but don't say that. Don't say that you're moving for the salary. That is not a good answer. That might be the truth, but honesty is not always going to help you. Honesty is not the best policy when it comes to interviews. So don't say that you're moving for the salary. No. You can say growth, you can say challenge, you can say interest, or you can say that you want to learn a new domain, you want to learn a new field, like how one of your friends said that I'm moving from banking to technology field because I want to learn technology. Now when you say that, they can ask you a question saying that you keep changing your interests. So what if you change your interest after like 3 4 years, you change your interest and you want to move to a different field, from technology field to a different field. Now again I have trained you for 3 to 4 years. Again you want to, after 4 years you want to move to a different domain, different field. then if that is what is going to happen, why should I train you now? Why should I train you for 4 years? I can hire somebody who will stay with me for a longer period of time. They will ask you a question like this. This is a trick question. So when you are asked question like that, you can say answer like, yes, resume and CV are different. Yes, Akhil. Resume will be more relevant to the job. Okay? CV will be a generic thing which will have all details about you, all your academic details, everything about you. Resume is more related to your job that you're applying for. If you're applying for a software job, you need to have a resume which has software related details or which where your software knowledge will add value. That is your resume. Now, sometimes resume and CV will be the same. Sometimes because let's say you are a computer science student. You're a computer science or IT student. Okay. And you are working as a software developer. In this case, your software related stuff will be your academics only. So in this case, your resume and CV is different only. Now, for my case or people like me, that will not be the same. If you have my CV, I will mention I have learned various aspects when it comes to electrical software, electrical subjects. I would mention all those things in my CV. Of course, I'll mention my IT related stuff also in my CV because my master is in IT. So I started off as an electrical engineering graduate, but I moved my domain from electrical to IT because in my bachelor degree I got placed in Infosys in my final year. So my career shifted from from electrical to IT. So for me, CV and resume will not be same. I have to modify my resume. And similarly, if I'm applying for a trainer job, my IT related experience will not be always useful for my trainer job. I have to explain more about my training experience. My CV will have my electrical info graduation details, my IT details, my IT experience, my um, training experience, everything will be there in my CV. But my resume, depending on what job I'm applying for, will have only that particular detail which is relevant to that particular job. Got it? Okay. Yeah, that is what it is. So for the previous question that Prabhat asked, this is how it is. So you can answer it in terms of growth perspective. You can answer it in terms of challenge perspective. Or if you genuinely have any reason, you can answer that. Like say, for example, you're more interested in that particular field. You can mention that. That should be it. Yeah. All right, Prabha. Any other questions, guys? Please do ask me if there are any other questions. If we don't have, then we will. Okay. Alan Sony has a question. Computer application, which is more about coding and software engineering, but I'm also skilled in UI UX design, making mockups and prototypes. Would it still be relevant? Yes, of course. Coding and software engineering will be relevant in UI UX because to do a software coding, software development, okay, so you are saying that you're skilled in UI UX design, making mockups and prototypes. Will it still be relevant to bring up UI UX skill in an interview or resume? Yes, it will be depending on the job. If you're applying for a developer job, you can still mention it as one of the aspect that you actually had. That you have this UI UX skill. You can mention it as an interest. You're basically interested in UI UX because you had the scope of being creative with the UI UX design. So you can mention it up. It will definitely add value. Okay. Because UI UX design is not an easy thing to do. And it's still somewhere related to software only. So you can bring it up. Alan, you can bring it up in your resume. Just you instead of explaining too much about UI UX, maybe like 1 or 2 lines, or maybe like couple of minutes, you can tell about your efforts that you put in developing that UI UX design skills. You can mention that because knowing UI UX design, we don't know whether it will be helpful or not for that software job. But that process of you trying to know that says something about you. right? You have not limited yourself just to your BCA or MCA, whatever you've done is. You did not stop yourself there. Okay, you kind of pushed yourself to the next level to learn something extra, UI UX design. So that says something about you personally. Now you have to understand that it's not possible for everyone to know everything. If any number of candidates are applying or appearing in an interview, it's not possible for everyone to know everything. But are you ready to put that effort? Are you, willing to go that extra mile to learn what you actually want to learn or to learn what is required? Are you putting that effort? That is more important. So this UI UX design says that you are ready to put that effort. You are ready to go to that extra mile. So that will definitely add value. And on top of that, UI UX might be relevant for you in your developing field also. How it will be, I'll tell you. Let's say you told me it's about coding. So coding, there are different types of coding. You have a back end development, you have a front end development. Now, for a front end developer who's working in JavaScript, JSS, HTML, CSS, jQuery, and all these things, for a front end developer working in that, it will definitely add value if that person also knows something about UI UX design, because UI UX is basically how you want to determine the look and feel of that particular website or a web page or something. So as a front end developer, if you know UX UX design, it will also add bit more value to that. Okay, so Anumol has asked, Akhil has asked. Akhil, you asked photo and resume. Photo is okay. You can add, but it's not mandatory. When you say you are adding a photo, for example, make sure that you add a professional photograph where you are dressed up very well, or what to say, you are dressed up in a suit or something. Like, it has to be like that. Don't add very casual pictures of you. Casual pictures or semi-formal pictures can be added in your LinkedIn profile, but not in your uh, resume. Resume has to have a proper standard profile, but it's okay. Yeah, Alan, sorry, that's all right. Yeah, Alan. Okay, and then Anumol. Anumol has asked about buzzwords. See, I'm not saying buzzwords should be avoided. Okay, you can have buzzwords in your resume, but just don't use too much. That is what I was trying to tell you when it comes to buzzwords. Now, what are buzzwords? Buzzwords will be, for example, I told you, right? You mentioned your personal skills. So I will type it here. I will tell it also. I'll type it also. Let's say you're a hardworking guy. You're a hard worker. That is a buzzword. So you're a hard worker. That is a buzzword that you cannot use frequently. Then what to say? Communication. You cannot keep using communication skill like often. Maybe once or twice you can mention. In your personal skill, you can mention as um, communication. You have good communication skills, excellent communication skill, whatever it is. Then motive. These kind of words. What is your motive? Then driven. These kind of words. I will put it in the group. These kind of words are the buzzwords that you can avoid using frequently. I'm not saying completely, frequently. Don't use these words frequently. Then motivation, don't use this. Then passionate, don't use this word passionate frequently. I'm saying you can use it once or twice, not more than that. Okay. Then what else? Achieved. These things you can avoid these kind of words in so once or twice you can add this, but not too much time. Okay. Then what else? Yeah, that should be it. Pretty much. There are many words. details, like the word details I'm talking about. The word details you don't have to mention. Improve, the word improve you don't have to mention in the resume. Responsible, that word you don't have to mention too much. These are all some of the buzzwords that you can avoid using frequently. All right. Okay, guys. So, any other questions? If you have any other questions, we can discuss that. I don't have a problem. So, it's good that people are coming up with a lot of questions. I'm really glad. Any more questions you have, we can discuss. Otherwise, we'll wind up the classes. And I also need one help. Uh, can any one of you give me some information about whether you guys have a group or something, like you have a uh, group where you guys communicate with each other? Do you have a group like that, or do you have a representative or something like that? Do you have anything of that sort?
We have group for each course different. I think we have group for business analyst.
Okay. Okay. So how many such groups are there? Do you have any idea? So business analyst is there. That's one group. Like that, do you know how many groups? See, the reason I'm asking this is I told you guys I'll give you the format, like the PowerPoint that we just discussed. I will give you. I just want to share it with you guys so that you can share it in the group. So I don't know how many groups are there. So what I'll do is I'll share my number here. You guys can just send me a text in WhatsApp. So whoever wants this material, just send. Maybe if there is a representative for the group, you can just send me a text in WhatsApp. I'll just send it to that person. You can share it in the group. Okay. So I'll just share this material. Okay. So 1 minute. One more message I've got. Yes, I just saw the. Okay, interview placed as web design. Accommodation job more than designing. Is it okay to add designer? Okay, so okay. Ashmita has asked me a question. I'll just address it in general. See, the thing is, you got interview and you're placed as a web design intern in one company. Okay, so you're telling that you've done documentation jobs more than designing. That is completely fine. But you have also mentioned that you have a design and certificate. So design and certificate says that you know something about designing. So since you know something about designing, that will definitely add value to you because you are placed as a web designer intern. Yes, the web designer intern and web designing, it's all correlated. So obviously they are all going to be in the same domain and it's going to definitely add value to your profile. You can also mention what you learned in your certification, in your designing certificate, the certificate that you did as a designer in designing. Whatever you learned in that, you can actually. So you have told that you've got some experience certificate. So if you got that experience, you can add that definitely. So that certificate is a proof that you worked. Now, what you did behind the scenes, nobody knows unless and until you tell it, or it will be evident from the knowledge that you have. So, what you need to do is, since you told me that you've done more documentation jobs, you can work towards preparing for the designer role. So, what people do in designing? Separate time you can allocate to learn about the designing part, so that that certificate that you have, which is the proof, that actually adds value. So if you are able to answer question in designing, nobody's gonna question whether you did something in designing or not. Okay? So you can make up a thing, like, since I'm being honest here. So since you can make up a thing where, like, a task that you did as part of designing, you can make up something because you have the experience certificate. So that is the first thing. A lot of people don't have that experience certificate. That is why they miss out. So if you prepare yourself for questions that are possible in designing, done deal. It is definitely going to help you. So yes, you can add. Any other question, guys? Okay, so we'll wind up the class. So we started and it's been 4 hours with just 10 minutes and break, and it's been almost like 4 hours. So thank you guys. Thank you for the session. So I have posted my uh, number and I will also send my email ID. In case if you need any help related to placements, aptitude, interviews, resume or anything, you can contact me.